Good morning, Deputy Mayor. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning and welcome to the EOI and welcome to Madrid today. For us, for the EOI, it's a pleasure hosting this fourth Interregional Thematic Seminar of CRAFTS Code. It has been 2 hard years in every aspect, economically, professionally, and personally. And I would like to congratulate the coordinator, partners, and stakeholders for the work developed during this time, for having it made possible to carry out this project. We are really glad for coming together today in Madrid. And despite missing the physical meetings in Baza, Kilner, Key, or Antwerp, I truly believe there is something positive from the pandemic. Our connection abilities have been improved. This allows us to reach a major audience. So I would like to take advantage of this moment and greet our partners and stakeholders who couldn't join us physically today but are following us online. This seminar is focused on the access to finance. I truly believe that no other thematic could fit better in a business school as EOI. Access to finance is one of the main challenges for any business, and it is the trending topic for the craft sector. Finance is a key element for enhancing the competitiveness of craftsmen. We are a business school attached to the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism, which offers specialized training for professionals of different sectors. Moreover, we work in the promotion of the craft sector through Fundesarte, who is developing this project in Spain. After 5 semesters of working hard, we start to perceive the effects of exchanging good practice. Thanks to the guides and videos, a fruitful interaction has been set up, and the creativity and resilience of the craft sector is being an inspiration for all of us, as well as for other sectors. In Spain, and thanks to the Crafts Code project, after several meetings with different local stakeholders, we have reestablished the National Craft Observatory. 2 weeks ago, representatives of the different Spanish regions gathered to establish the ground for this new stage of the observatory. The main purpose of this institution, we have agreed, is sharing data on craft enterprises, work together to face the challenge of the sector, share good practices, as well as promoting the craft sector. We really hope that you enjoy your stay in Madrid and the ones traveling to Santiago have a fruitful stay. Thank you and welcome. Gracias. Sorry. And now, I just give the floor to the Deputy Mayor of Florence, Federico Granazzi.
Thank you, Carmen. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 4th Interregional Thematic Seminar of the Crafts Code project. And thank you for your participation. I'm Deputy Mayor of the Municipality of Florence in Italy, in charge of economic development. And I'm really honored to have the opportunity to open this meeting, the first one in presence after a long time of virtual exchanges. And I really thank to our hosting partner, Fundesarte, for organizing this event, and giving all partners and stakeholders the opportunity to get in touch with Spanish experienced sector. The craft sector is an important part of creative industries and of Europe's creative economy. It makes a vital contribution to the wider economy linked to tourism, food, design, and enriching our cultural experience. That's why a group of 9 European partners, today 10, decided in 2019 to present a project idea based on the efforts made by the partners for the implementation of policies and projects supporting the competitiveness and scaling up potential of small and medium-sized enterprises. belonging to the craft sector in order to innovate it and mitigate the risk of disappearance of many traditional craft and manufacturing. This is the birth of the Craft Code project financed under the fourth and last call of the Interregional Europe program, and our municipality is proud to lead this international consortium made up of different institutional, academic, business partners coming from Italy, Spain, Finland, Belgium, Hungary, Bulgaria, Ireland. Okay, we are all. And through the Craft Code project, partners have decided to tackle adequately the key issue fostering knowledge about the development and implementation of new business model and product innovation system for micro and SMEs in the craft sector. This specific aspect can obviously be applied to all segments of the craft sector, because the project looks at craft SMEs as a new potential innovative SMEs, which need to find their business strategy and which the policymakers need to look at as lever of competitive development. The overall objective is to improve the SMEs competitiveness in the craft sector by developing a framework stimulating policy learning and capacity building activities with the contribution of all involved stakeholders, and improving the implementation of regional development policies and programs, supporting handicraft SMEs in all stages of their life cycle to develop and achieve growth and engage in innovation. This is our last interregional meeting aiming to explore the fourth topic, how to support craft sector by access to finance, in order to present the selected good practices to be transformed in specific tailored action and policies. And I'm particularly proud as well to announce that the new entry partner School of Business Sciences and Industrial Technologies, Piero Baldesi, they are with us, from Florence, will have the opportunity to present the recently approved pilot action call for crafts. We have a rich today's program. That's why I leave the floor to overview dedicated to general topic and the presentation of international good practices. I wish you a fruitful time today and tomorrow. Get in touch with the potential improvement of the craft sector. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Deputy Major. Thank you, Carmen. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to those who are following us online. I'm really happy to welcome you here after the beginning of the project where we met in Florence and then everything was a mess. And it's really nice to see your faces here, although with masks, but I see your eyes and I see that you have sparks in your eyes and you are happy to be here. So today we have a full program about the fourth topic, which is how to support the craft sector by access to finance. I know it's not the most attractive topic, but it's very important for craft enterprises and for enterprises in general, but in particular our sector. The European Commission is aware of the problem of the cultural and creative sectors to access funding. They did a study, which is called Survey on Access to Finance for Cultural and Creative Sectors. So if they devote a study specifically for that, it's because it's important. One of the obstacles that startups face in accessing finance is that there is much information, but no concrete one. And this leads sometimes to the abandonment of the entrepreneurship in the craft sectors. A key feature of companies in the cultural and creative sectors is that they really rely heavily on intangible assets such as copyrights, licenses, or royalties. And in addition to the difficulty of properly assessing intangible assets such as intellectual property rights, creative talent, and novelty, the market demands for products and services in the cultural and creative sector is often very uncertain. So entrepreneurs tend to be more content-orientated than commercial, that we all know. And the lack of business skills and financial support can hamper the ability to develop high-quality business plans or cash flow projections. So these are central elements in evaluating loan applications, for example. Public support here is very important for cultural and creative entrepreneurship. It can come from direct subsidies, tax incentives, public guarantee systems, loans from public administrations, etc. Today, we will see a lot of examples from our partners explaining how their craft enterprises got to reach these aids or financial aids and how they access to finance. We will start with Ireland. They will present hard cash and soft support to grant aid applications, building resilient businesses. From Hungary, we will have an example of Meter Sisters. It's a workshop that was created in order to answer to these problems of the fast fashion by creating an exclusive and unique experience incorporating sustainability and awareness. Then from Finland, we will have two examples. One is called UKOFI. It's a light entrepreneurship online platform, which takes care of all paperwork and red tape, like invoicing, taxes, and all this stuff, which I know that most craftspeople don't like. And then we will have, I don't know if I pronounce it right, Startiraha, something like this, which provides an entrepreneur a secure income for up to 12 months while getting a business up and running it. So the first year you get some covering. From Spain, I will present the regional aids that we have for the craft sector here. And from Italy, we will have also two examples. One is Call for Crafts. It's a specific training offered to craft enterprises to improve their competitiveness. And Rinascimento Firenze, and non-repayable grants and impact loans for the craft sector that have been affected by COVID-19. We will hear a lot of the impact of COVID-19, of course, and how public administration has offered some aids in that sense. And at last, but not least, Bulgaria will connect online and tell us about craftsmanship for the future. It's also a project about financial support for the ethnographic open-air museums in Bulgaria. So I hope that this program is interesting for you. And I just leave the floor to the first case from Ireland. Are you going to present, Nick? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. My name is Nikola Tomic. I'm coming from the Design and Crafts Council Ireland, and today we will present on soft supports in addition to hard supports or financial supports. We have a team of 3 people presenting, so I had to bring my laptop so I don't mess up their names and titles. So in order of appearance, we'll have Seamus Doran, Assistant Head of Economic Development and Enterprise from the local enterprise office in Carlow County Council. He will be presenting, unfortunately, via a recorded video, so he sends his apologies he couldn't be with us today. Joining from Zoom, we have Alison Power, who is the owner and managing director of Mohu Designs. And then to finish it up, we have Lynn Whelan, design strategist at Design Plus Technology Gateway, Institute of Technology in Carlow. So I'll leave them to talk. This was my job done.
Thank you, Nicola. I'll just first of all get the video, if I can, here going for Seamus to start the presentation. 1 second. Bear with me. So first of all, just to say, delighted to be here today and to meet with you. And I look forward to the next 2 days of talks with everybody and hearing the rest of the presentations. As Nicola said, there'll be 3 of us presenting briefly this morning from Ireland, looking at best practices for accessing finance. And we're looking at a combination of soft and hard supports and connectivity and cluster forming activities. And just to explain briefly what we mean by that is the soft supports of mentoring and training that can combine with hard supports of hard skills and cash and financial assistance, and how the two play a role together. So first of all, we'll have Seamus, who is coming in by video, if we can. See if this works. We might just try the second one.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak to you this morning. My name is Seamus Doran, and I'm the Assistant Head of Economic Development and Enterprise in Carlow County Council's Local Enterprise Office based in Ireland. I'm very sorry I can't be with you in Madrid this morning to speak to you in person. It looks like you have a great agenda for this 2 days with a lot of learning and a lot of very important outputs to come from it. To give you some background about who I am and who I represent, the local enterprise offices were established by the government in Ireland, and there is one local enterprise office based within every council, every local council within the country. There are 31 of us in total, and our job is to work with small local businesses within our area of up to 10 employees to support their growth and development. For many local enterprise offices, and including my own one, the crafts and creative and design sectors are a very important part of our client base because it's an area we've got a huge interest in Ireland, and it's something we want to grow as both a source of employment and as a representation of our country and the creativity of it. The local enterprise offices work with a very broad range of businesses, and we offer a very broad range of financial and non-financial supports to our clients. Our financial supports include a broad range of grant aid, and our non-financial supports include the likes of business mentoring and business training. For many people, we're best known for the range of financial supports we give, and our two largest ones would be our priming grant and our business expansion grants. The idea of these supports is to help small local businesses get established or to grow and to create employment. Under these grants, we can offer grant aid of up to €150,000, although the typical grant would be much smaller than that. The grant service, the amounts offered for a grant is assessed based on the amount of job creation that a business applicant is proposing to create. There's a very rigorous assessment process, and we study every element of the business in deciding whether or not we are in a position to offer government grant aid to the business. There has been a lot of businesses within the design and craft sector have been supported by their local enterprise offices over recent years to get established and who have benefited from our priming and business expansion grants. But our financial supports are just one small element of what we offer to businesses and how we build partnerships with businesses in our local areas. We also offer a wide range of business mentoring, whereby we can offer the assistance of an expert to work with a business on a one-to-one level and to deal with issues within the business. This is particularly important in any business sector whereby the business owner has a speciality in terms of their product and are very good in the entire line of product development, but need some additional support in commercializing that product and turning the product or the business idea into a long-term sustainable business, which will give employment to themselves and hopefully will grow to give employment to others as well. The craft and design and creative sectors are a very good example of this because we have business owners who've got a huge expertise in terms of the development of their product, but may need some additional support to convert their knowledge and their experience into a sustainable business. So we will work with businesses to provide one-to-one mentoring support to them. It could be in areas like long-term business strategy. It could be in areas like sales and marketing or the finance of their business. We also offer a number of one-to-one training programs to businesses as well in similar topics to help them grow and become sustainable. So when we're assessing a grant aid application from any business, including in the craft, design and creative sectors, one of the questions we will ask ourselves is, how much has this business engaged with the other non-financial supports that we can offer? Have they engaged with our one-to-one mentoring? Have they taken part in our business training programs? Have they sat down with some of our experts to work out a roadmap, a business plan for the development of their business? And if we can see that, that business owner, that crafts and design person is serious about the sustainable growth of their business and has put the time into engaging with the other supports that we have to offer, we can then have confidence in giving that person, that business, financial support through the government grant aid packages that we offer. If I was to give one answer to the question, what is good practice in terms of accessing government grant aid for people within the crafts and creative sector, it would be to view grant aid not as a standalone or as an end in itself, but as part of a wider, broad range of supports that can be given through a government agency like ourselves, and that the non-financial supports we offer, the mentoring, the training, they help to grow a sustainable long-term business, should be seen as just as important as the financial aid that we can offer. So again, thank you very much for your time and for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this morning. And I'm very sorry I couldn't be in Madrid with you in person.
So one second, just get out of this. Back to PowerPoint. So next up, we're going to talk to Alison, who's hopefully going to join us live from Ireland on our Zoom link. Can we get her in, Sylvie? No, she's on the way. Okay, so I think Alison can hear us, but we just can't see her at the moment. Alison, can you hear us? No, I don't think we've reconnected. Hi, Alison. Thanks for joining us. So I'll let Alison introduce herself, and she has a few words to say, and I will share her presentation here from the hall. Thanks, Alison. Hold on, we're just not getting sound there, Alison. 1 second. We're being very high-tech today with all what we're trying to achieve, but can we get sound on that? Alison, are you on mute? Just to double check. No, not hearing Alison. Sorry, guys, bear with us. No. No. No.
And then to offer both hard and soft supports to that owner. Supports that will meet their specific business needs at that time. These include, as Seamus said, training and access to mentors, networking opportunities, and innovation programs, just to mention a few. All of these working together in a way that supports my growth as a business person, but also my business's ability to anticipate, meet, and adapt to change. In my experience, engagement with soft supports, as well as access to finance, demonstrates my company's commitment and gives me knowledge that enables me to access future financial support. I believe that these soft supports are not just important, but indeed essential. Moving from applying for smaller amounts of financial support to larger would have been almost impossible without the knowledge and confidence I gathered with each application. The experts delivering these supports cover a wide range of skills. And in these times of reduced personal interaction, these people are doing the opposite. They meet with me either in person or online as appropriate and listen to the specific challenges that I am facing. They work with my specific skill set and towards my vision in an effort to strengthen my ability to persevere and to help my business fulfill its potential. On several different occasions, I have interacted with the same soft support suppliers, and in this way, create and build strong relationships, and create my own network of experts that I can reach out to for advice and support. As a micro business owner, like so many craftspeople are, this helps me to feel like I'm not on my own and that I do have a team to lean on. This is so much more than simply access to finance. It is valuable support for me and my business. And these are some of the people who are on my support team, as you'll see from Lynn's slide. One of the most recent supports that I have availed of was an innovation voucher. This has had a transformational impact on the way I look at my business. The innovation process was delivered by Lynn and her team at Design Plus. Together, we closely examined my business offering, my vision, and the market that I serve. And using their innovation process, we created a strategic roadmap for my business. They've also shown me how to use a set of practical design tools that allow me to revisit the strategy of my company and to easily see all my plans and actions in context. But I'm going to let Lynn tell you more about that. And that's all from me. I would like to thank you again for listening to me this morning and wish you all a very good day. Here's Lynn.
Thank you, Alison. Thanks for that. That was great. Apologies for the technical difficulties at the start. So yes, as Alison has mentioned, I'm one of the supporting agencies and I offer support to businesses, including craft, in forming strategies for growth and innovation. This type of support is a good example of why mentoring can be valuable, as this particular process is about generating ideas, evaluating ideas, and forming strategies for growth and innovation. And this facilitated process provides improved viability, a rigor to ideas, and clear rationale and direction for growth. And this is far more likely to result in accessing financial supports for development. There's a 4-stage process that we work with companies in supporting them, and we bring them using a strategic design approach through a process. We work with companies on a one-to-one and also through larger scale programs where we can exchange knowledge and companies can come together to go through the process. And it's carried out over a series of workshops over weeks and sometimes months. The outcomes are the structured strategy for growth and innovation. There's also impacts which are possibly longer term, slightly harder to measure, but that includes things like critical thinking, the introduction of critical thinking to the company, strategic planning, visualization techniques, creating a shared context, and transforming the business. We use a series of design tools to support this, but more importantly, to help embed the thinking into the business. And the tools are something that the business can continue to use after our engagement with them to help embed the thinking and create a culture for innovation and growth and become more adaptable and resilient. And one of the tools that we use is a strategic roadmap. And Alison mentioned it earlier, but the roadmap actually maps the steps to implementation to anything that's been identified from an innovation or growth perspective as a new strategy. And what it does as well is marks out the soft supports that are needed, any additional training or mentoring or supporting skills from other resources that need to come in as part of that development plan. It also highlights financial supports that are required throughout that journey. And the work that we would do is ensure that we link the business in with those supports, both soft and hard supports, and the people and the network that's involved in carrying out those supports. So it ensures that connectivity and the building of that sort of cluster relationship for the business. So overall, in relation to our best practice in accessing finance, we've been talking about combined soft and hard supports, connectivity and cluster forming activities. Engaging with mentoring and training supports demonstrates commitment, increases viability of the business, and a rigor of process. This ensures a greater chance of accessing financial supports. It also builds that network of supporting expertise, building resilience, adaptability, innovation, and strategy. thank you for your time this morning. We've enjoyed being here, and we have some contact details there, and we'll be around for the next 2 days. Obviously, we'd love to talk to any of you at any stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina.
Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. I would like to present you to the fourth good practice of Hungary, which is Mitter Sisters. My name is Anna Rosa Mitter, and I am a leather designer and co-founder of Mitter Sisters Studio, which is the first DIY leather bag making workshop in Budapest that offers plenty of materials and designer techniques to our participants so they can create very unique leather bags, and the sky is the limit. But you know, it's just a workshop, so why is that so interesting? Well, we found Mitter Sisters way before workshops and DIY courses were trending as much as in our days, because we wanted to answer to the problems of fast fashion, and we wanted to bring back the value of handmade items. We wanted to raise attention for sustainability by introducing our customers to the process of the making. So about the numbers, since 2015, we had over 8,000 participants at the workshops. We run more than 600 workshops, and we created over 1,000 beautiful and unique leather bags. And we had participants from all around the world. But how it began? So as I mentioned before, I am a leather designer. I work with this material for more than 16 years now. I did this in high school, and then I also did a leather faculty at university. So this is what I did like forever. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful profession, but to be honest, it's part of the fashion industry. And we know that fashion industry is not the cleanest field. So I had to come to Madrid about 10 years ago to first hear about sustainable fashion, and that changed my entire point of view and my mission for this profession. So I learned about the really big amount of waste that this industry is creating, also the really bad over-consuming processes, and I knew immediately that I would like to change that, and I would like to create a sustainable fashion brand. And I wanted to reach as many people as I could, even fashion victims and shopaholics. I wanted to share these infos about sustainable fashion with as many people as I just could. But how to do that? Well, first of all, I thought that if we are creating really unique bags that are one of a kind, and you won't see them on the street, probably that can bring a bigger value to these objects. I also thought that if you guys have the chance to create your own leather bags and to put your style and your personality into these items, it can give an extra connection to these leather bags, and probably you will not throw them away in 2 weeks or 2 months, but maybe you can keep it for years, even pass it to your child or to your grandchild. So that was first part of the mission. And then I also thought that beside uniqueness, experience is just as important as creating unique bags. So I have this feeling that we are living in a world where we have access to a lot of things, but we don't really have idea how our fashion items were made. It's super easy to buy new bags, new clothes, new cars, new furniture all the time, but we don't know how much time and effort people put into the creation of these things. So, you know, we are curious. We keep on watching how it's made on National Geographic, so we would like to know how things were made, but that's quite a different experience than coming to a workshop and make a bag for yourself within 8, 10, or 14 hours. Yeah, so, you know, we feel like changing our clothes all the time because we have access to really cheap fashion items. But unfortunately, when a bag is cheap, it doesn't mean that somehow that item was created for less money. It only means that we are not the ones who are paying the price of that bag. We can support with these decisions poor salary, bad working conditions, child labor or bad materials that are harmful for the nature. So I wanted to change this, and I wanted to educate my customers, because if you come to my workshop and you work 10 or 14 hours on your own leather bag, that can be a life-changing experience. And trust me, you will never ever look at a bag the same way as you looked at it before. The biggest happiness with the workshop for me is that I am receiving feedbacks from people who were really big fashion consumers before, how they started to change their shopping habits after the workshops, and this is what makes me feel really good about this entire project. So about our portfolio, we have got different type of workshops with different lengths, with different type of bags, and of course with different amount of commitment. We run the workshops for a small group of people, from 4 to 8 person, because we would like to put as much attention to all of our participants as we can. It's also important that since we are creating unique bags, we have to put a lot of energy into the creation process, because these are basically prototypes, and we would like the end results to look like bags that people were buying in stores. So this is our main service, the 1 or 1.5 days long workshop. Here participants have a bigger commitment, because they can not only pick their colors, but they can also incorporate designer techniques, and they can really feel as a designer for an entire day, and at the end of the day they can go home with a beautiful, unique item that looks like they bought it in a store, but it's a one of a kind. Then we have got 4 hours long workshops. Here people can pick the different colors and materials and still create something beautiful, but with a smaller commitment. But also if you just come and make a keychain, it's a lot of fun as well. So the workshops. At the beginning, we show a big kit of tools. We introduce our participants to the materials and designing techniques. It's really important as a sustainable fashion brand. We are working with natural material. It's a really tough topic, because creating leather is just as harmful for the nature as creating plastic. But it's really important that all the materials are coming from the meat industry. So if we were not using them for these purposes, they would have been thrown away, and I don't think that's a really sustainable thing. Then we show about 15 different decorational techniques. Here you can see some samples of the bags that were created at the workshop by people who never ever touched leather before. So they came in the morning, and at the end they left with these bags. So these are just a few samples about the different techniques. You see some quilting, you see some studding, some fringes, some waving, some braiding, and again, sky's the limit. So at the beginning of the workshop, we introduce to our participants the proper cutting and assembling technique, so they can really participate during the entire process of making from scratch until the final object. Me and my partners are helping to everyone to achieve all the steps. So people don't need any special skills or pre-knowledge about leather. We help with everything, and that's why we do have participants from the age of 10 to the age of 80. So it's a lot of fun for everyone. About the business. So we found Mitter Sisters in 2015 with my 2 partners. One of them was my sister, Violetta Mitter. She was responsible for the graphic part of the business. And we had a mentor, László Radácsi. He is an expert in business development, and he helped us a lot. Since 2019, I am running this business by myself with co-workers who are helping me to run the workshops themselves, but we started it, the 3 of us. In 2016, I made my own company. It was self-entrepreneurship. This is how we call it in Hungary. And during the same year, and this is where we reached the topic of today, that was the year when I applied for a special type of support. It was called Young Entrepreneur Support Program, initiated by the Hungarian government, And I received 10,000 euros non-refundable grant that I could use for equipment. And this is how much we love our equipment. We bought machines and tools from this money, and this is how we could start the workshop itself. At the beginning, we were only concentrating to the Hungarian market, which is a relatively small market. But since it was a fresh take on the entertainment and the service sector, we became popular quite fast. We had the chance to work with brands such as Mercedes-Benz, who ordered 3 types of workshops in the first 2 weeks. So we run an on-site event for one of their test drivings. We ran a mass event in a mall, and we also created small accessories for Mercedes-Benz Fashion Weeks. And due to these activities, we could reach about 600 people in the first 2 weeks. So that was a big step at the beginning. Then we also wanted to raise attention through social media. And for this, we started to run social media workshops where we invited journalists and bloggers who could try this new kind of experience and then, of course, write about it. What is a really big deal for me is that after the second year, 70% of our customers heard about the workshop by mouth-to-mouth marketing. So that means that if someone came to the workshop and felt good, immediately started to share these infos with their friends and family, and that's how we gained a lot of awareness about the workshop at the beginning. We also run team building events, and the interesting thing is that since there's COVID, the amount of these team buildings events raised so much that now it takes about 35–40% of our incomes, and I find this really surprising since COVID was basically making distance and not bringing people together in a mass type of workshop way. In 2017, we opened for the international market. We started to run workshops in English as well. And that was the time when Airbnb launched their Airbnb experiences. And that's how we could reach people from all around the world. Here you can see some of my amazing participants from everywhere. And I would like to share a nice story with you. You see Mandy in the middle. Mandy is from Canada, and she applied to my workshops about 3 times. And when she applied for the 4th time, she wanted to participate at a longer workshop of 5 days. And before the workshop, she asked me, "Can I please have a half day off?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course. What do you want to see in Budapest?" And she told me, "Well, actually, I would like to visit the city." And I was super surprised. I was like, "That's your 3rd time or 4th time in Budapest?" And it turned out that she never ever saw the city because she only come to my workshop. So the only thing she saw from the city, it was my studio from the inside. So this happened as well. And Mandy. Yeah, as the final phrases, in the past 6 years, I have experienced that people really need these kind of activities. We are living in a digital world. We are spending a lot of time behind computers and laptops. And this is just a really fresh take on social activities. My goal is to show the process of making to as many people as I can and to bring back the value of handmade, handcrafted goods and items. At the moment, we are working on a new business model with my team. We would like to shorten the workshops a little bit so people can come and create a really unique leather accessory within just a few hours instead of a day. And hopefully this new business model can be adopted by other countries. So we are ready to grow and spread the sustainable fashion idea to the world. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. I need to put the microphone down because I'm a little bit short. An unusual Nordic one, chatty and short, so I really hope I'm going to make this in about 10 minutes. So my name is Tanja Auravita, and my background is in design, in fashion design, and I was also studying marketing. But I always loved handicraft, and you can imagine that in fashion you absolutely need handicraft, especially in Europe. The all haute couture just is based on handicraft. So that's just the starting point for all of it and for all design we have. handicraft. But today I'm going to talk about another thing. That's the topic, how to access finance. And this is a very funny topic because in Finland, as much as we love handicraft, we all learn to do something by hand. Also, guys need to do textile handicraft at school, etc., etc. I mean, if you're in the army and you don't know how to sew a button when you're in the middle of the battlefield, come on, you don't go to your mother. It's very simple. But so in any case, so there's a very, very high appreciation of handicraft. But unfortunately for craftspeople as professional entrepreneurs, it's a different story. One reason might be because we are able to do so many things by ourselves. Another reason, I don't know. There are many reasons for that. So today I'm going to talk about two possibilities to access funding. The first one is more about trialing entrepreneurship, if someone really wants to do that. It might be for aspiring craftspeople, those who want to become one, but they're still not sure if they want to invest all that into it. They might want to test their products, etc. It's a light entrepreneurship. And the next one is for those who really are then starting their activity. Two ways to have some sort of financial process there. So the first one is light entrepreneurship. I'm very short. And it's actually, there are other options for this as well. And this is one of them, ukko.fi, a platform that takes care of the invoicing, the red tape, etc., paperwork that is there. But unfortunately doesn't take care of the social security payments. So it's not a long-term solution for anyone. But it's very good if you want to trial test something. This is for me and what people might think about my products or my services. So I already explained the background, what is for craftspeople in general and at the craft sector. And for this one also, I'm not talking from the crafts point of view, is that many people also have their main job. We have three wonderful craftspeople here from the Kvarken shop. There's another name for this one, who also have had their main jobs there at the same time. And at the same time, people want to try something else. Is craftsmanship something I want to do full time? Are my ideas okay, etc.? And of course, very good because handicraft hardly receives any funding in Finland. We mostly invest in technology, biology, all those high return of investment issues and things. But with this one, instead of doing all the paperwork and studying all about that, these craftspeople have the chance to take care of their billing and invoicing, except the social security payments are not included and such things, insurance payments and such. So they do not, what's good about this for trialing the activity, they still don't need their own business ID, and they can test their business ideas with a low risk, have quick experiments, etc. And they get paid for the work they do, and it also enables part-time and gig-like work. It can be some sort of a first approach to entrepreneurship and funding opportunities. So I'm not going to repeat this one because I already told it all. And so everything is available online, which in a very sparsely populated country like Finland is a very good thing because the distances are just long and we're not that many people. And we really don't want to, we do all the bank things online, everything else online anyway. So it's very handy. And it actually started from an idea that these four guys here, they're all male, they had difficulties to hire freelancers. So this is how it all started. Something like that then became something that other people can use it too. And the Ukko, the funny first thing of that, it's actually means a god of thunder. But nowadays Ukkeli is a bit like, an old Ukkeli. So not very godlike anymore. The very opposite of that. So there's a little bit of the history. So they have landed the model, they have done all their trial and error thing there, and to establish the activity. And of course, there's still a lot to be improved. The whole thing always started maybe 10 years ago or something, and the things will be discovered, etc. But it does answer to this challenge of craftspeople want to trial the issues. And here's some of the data of this company. It's been a market leader since 2016, so people do use it. I don't know if the name is something that helps in it. Their marketing may have been good, etc. But there are 100,000 users were there in 2020. Well, we are 5 million people, so it's still quite okay. And here are some more figures about it. We're not a big country, not many people. Well, a big country, but not that many people. And here are the stakeholders. Of course, there are the people who do the work, who want to get paid for the jobs, but also all these things like financial institutions, tax agency, etc., insurance agencies. But if we think about the transferability, of course, this is a company that's doing it, but the similar kind of models do exist also in other companies. So there might be some ideas, or maybe some ideas of taking some part of it. But I think the main elements are that it enables quick experience without a business ID, without establishing a business. It does enable testing if I will be able to do craftsmanship as a profession, if I want to work 8 hours a day to do it, and this and that, 52 weeks in a year. It's an easy and quick way to get the first touch in it. And it has actually then increased the number of people willing to take the risk and try out something, which is also important. Finns are not that good in doing these things unless it's something IT. So it could be something transfer, of course, some of the core elements of it to another country. And this is what they say, their motto, do what you love. Okay, let's talk about the other one. No, sorry, this ended, so I need to change it. Okay, it's here. Yeah. This one is then for those who have already established a business but still very fresh. So it's an income support for aspiring entrepreneurs, which has its own conditions. It provides a support, a certain quite small amount of support daily and monthly, because I think it's paid more like at the monthly level, for 1 year to start the activity and support the business activity while these entrepreneurs, individuals, not like a bigger consortiums, but individuals are getting their business up and running, building their clientele. So some reasons for this are, of course, that self-employment has increased. So that's one need for this one. And of course, we need more companies. And there might be many of those who want to just start a shop, a cafeteria, become a craftsperson or something, and they don't get this big money. So there's a way to provide income for them and a little bit of support for them. And so anyway, it promotes employment and establishing new businesses. And during the pandemic, in 2020, those who started their business in 2020, they were allowed to have starttiraha for 18 months, 1.5 years. So what is needed is that one must be a full-time entrepreneur. Quite logical, because if you don't get any other income, then you would get this income to support you. And your business idea must be feasible and has some prospect lots of prospect for the future as well, and be something that can be profitable. So it's worth to invest this amount of money. And of course that the business activity only starts after receiving this funding, not that it's been running for 6 months and then you receive it, because that already shows that you don't need it anymore. And of course, it's mainly for individual entrepreneurs. So because of this structure and because it's focused on individuals, it's also very good for craftspeople who want to focus on the activities. So first maybe may try something with this light entrepreneurship, and then they can move on maybe to this one. And what they do is they just simply contact Enterprise Finland and talk with the people from there, and then these other entrepreneurship-related offices and job-related offices, and they go through business plans and everything else, and then they apply for this grant and they might be funded Not everyone, of course, gets it, but it might be funded. And here's just about the from 12 to 18 months in 2020 due to the pandemic support. The challenges are always, of course, that all business around their risk, but what comes to the system is that it needs a little bit more harmonization between different areas and different activities. There is different regions of the country, not just areas, regions of the country. And of course, there might be need for some other options as well, not just full-time entrepreneur activity. So the thing that might be very interesting, I'm trying to be short enough to this one, I told you I'm chatty. So the support that they receive daily is very small, but still a little bit more than nothing, lots more than nothing. So it's only 33.78 euros per day. That's about approximately 700 euros per month. And they get this, and they don't need to then do certain boring things related to it. They just get this based on their business idea. But if they stop their business, of course, then this one stops as well during the time of receiving the money. And the idea is really to get this business started and running and increase their livelihood and have their markets and build their markets and clientele. So here's some evidence of success. Between 2011 and 2018, it was granted for 35.5 thousand people. And anyway, the total fund has been 223 million, and the average funding per beneficiary has been 6,290. So figures may not be too high, but it's definitely still something that can help these companies. They cannot get any loans or any other things from anywhere, the crafts people, I mean. So this definitely something can be very helpful. And here are some stakeholders. All this up there, like the Ministry of Economy, of Affairs and Employment is, of course, a public institute. They're all public institutions. And then, of course, the beneficiaries, the job seekers, aspiring entrepreneurs, etc. Potential, this could be something that could be transferred partly, at least, that you might get some ideas for this. And I hope that the whole model of providing some sort of basic funding for them to have their food on daily, on the table daily for the first year of activities could be something that could support them. And also any other aspect of the practice could provide any ideas for transferability. These are something that came to our minds. So, of course, in other places, other forms of funding can be used. And that's it. Thank you.
Now we'll continue with the Spanish good practice that is going to be presented by Laura Miguel. Yeah, here you have it.
Hi again. Morning, everyone. Morning to the ones that are following us on the internet. I saw many stakeholders from our different countries. I'm going to talk about the regional craft days that we have in Spain. The ecosystem here is very diverse, and we have many stakeholders working for the craft sectors. And I'll show you a map of Spain because I want you to see the different colors mean the different regions. So we have 17 different regions and 2 autonomous cities. That means that we have 17 different public administrations working for the craft sector. So we have 17 different laws for what craft is, 17 different craft repertoires, and 17 different ways of how to organize crafts in Spain. They are all quite similar, but they are on their own. And of course, each region has its own fundings. And I'm going to show you or give examples from different regions that have current fundings, so fundings or aids that have been established this year. It's only an example of what is happening in Spain. It's not a comprehensive presentation with all of them, but I want to give you some examples only. So the first one is from Galicia. If we go back, it's the region up there in the Atlantic coast. They issued subsidies for the commercialization of Galician crafts and improve the competitiveness of the craft sector. So these are competitive aids. It means that you can apply for it, and they only fund the best ones or the selected ones. It doesn't mean that if you apply, you get it, but it's a competitive call. You have 1 month to present it. So once it is issued in the public, procurement, you have then 1 month to apply. The total funds for this strand were 250,000 euros, and it had 3 types of beneficiaries: craft enterprises, then craft associations, and councils. So the aids are up to 80%. So for craft people, for instance, it's the aids are for attending craft fairs. So you have different types of craft fairs, like professional craft fairs, non-professional fairs, and the Christmas fairs. So you get a ticket that allows you to have like in between 500 or 3,000 euros, depending on which fair you are going to be present. For associations, it's almost the same. It's for organizing monographic fairs or non-monographic fairs, and the funding is up to 30,000 euros, depending on the scope of the fair. And the councils, they can receive up to 15,000 euros for organizing craft fairs in their autonomous community. So this is one of the examples that we have. And in Galicia, they had another strand called subsidies for the implementation and promotion of the digital strategy and modernization of the commercial and craft sectors. So this was for 2 sectors, for retailers and craftspeople. That's why the total funds are really high. It's 5,000 million euros. And it's like the one before. It's also in a competitive way. You have 1 month to propose your action. And the beneficiaries, as said, it was retailers and craft workshops. The eligible funding was for the strand digitalization, also up to 80%. And it varies from 800 euros to 26,000 euros. It depends on what you are implementing. You can go for digital transformation, like web pages and updating commercial websites. You can optimize your business processes if you need new tools or software business and something similar. You can also, in this strand, do like use the communication, advertising, and marketing tools. You can also do marketing actions, e-commerce logistics, and a new topic that is now very in here is the sustainable e-commerce logistics. Because during the pandemic, we saw that you have to buy, if you buy locally, it's more sustainable and more appropriate. So this is the strand for digitalization. And then you had another strand for the acquisition of equipment of the commercial and artisan activity. It's again up to 80%, and the maximum grant is 10,000 euros. So that's a way of funding where you get some funds for your enterprise to be more competitive, like in the digitalization way, but you have also to put also some of your part. You have to also collaborate with 20% of your own funds. It's not, you don't only get funding for free, but you have to also put a little bit of yourself. Then we have another example from Catalonia. They have also two types of grants in 2021. One is called the Program for the Growth and Competitiveness of Craft Companies. The purpose is to reactivate and promote the craft sector and to promote its competitiveness and quality. The beneficiaries of this call are self-employed people and companies in the craft sector. Here, the amount is up to 100% of the eligible cost, but the maximum amount that you can get is 2,000 euros. And then they have another program that is called Support Program for Municipalities in the Field of Crafts. And the purpose is to encourage implementation of establishments of unique artisanal activities and organize prestigious fairs and craft markets in Catalonia. So the town councils can also ask for funding to organize fairs in their cities. The beneficiaries, as said, are town councils and their public bodies that are affiliated or linked to them, decentralized municipal entities, and county councils. The grant amount is up to 50% of the eligible expenditure with a maximum of 7,000 euros. So this is another way, another type of aids that are being dealt here in Spain. Then we have a case of Melilla. Melilla is the autonomous city, which is really small, but they also have craft workers and craftspeople there. And they issued a call for grants for the implementation of projects in the crafts promotion activity. It's again competitive aids. The beneficiaries are craftspeople and craft companies. The total funds that they have is 16,000 euros. I remember it's a really small city, and the other ones were really big regions, so that's why we have so big differences. And the amount is up to 3,000 euros. The eligible funding is also marketing, the promotion of crafts, through performances carried out by artisans, the constitution of companies, of artisan workshops also, as entrepreneurs, as we saw before in the case of Finland, also the acquisition of capital goods, and the organization of fairs. As you see, as it's a small city, they put all together, and we had examples from Galicia and Catalonia that were just specific to a certain topic. Then we have also a very specific case here. I just tell you that in the presentation, what's underlined means that you can click on it and you can go directly to the specifics of the aid. So once we put up all the presentations in the Crafts Code website, you can access all the information of each of these calls. So if you want more information, just click the link. So this case is also very interesting because Valencia is a region with traditional festivities. In March, you have Las Fallas. I don't know if you know them. Yes, okay. So there are lots of crafts related to these festivities. You have clothing, traditional clothing, jewelry. You have also the fallas itself. It's a big... how to explain that in English? Oh my goodness. It's like big puppies, or I don't know, that represent like an image from the city or the society. And at the end, once you have built them up, they put it all over the city and then they burn it. So Valencia is, they burn. Ninots, yes. So they issued, because of the pandemic, we didn't have festivities for 2 years, and the craft enterprises working for these festivities of course, didn't have work and they just had to stop. So it was very hard for them to continue their trade. So the purpose of these aids is direct granting. This is really direct. If you ask it, you get it. To ensure the maintenance of the activity and the continuity of the traditional crafts of the Valencian community, directly linked to their festivities. The beneficiaries were craftspeople, self-employed, and craft companies. The amount was up to 7,000 euros, and the requirements were to work and live in the Valencian community, at least since 1st of March 2020, so when the pandemic started, and have suffered a reduction of at least 30% of income in the fiscal year 2020 in comparison to the previous year. And then last, I want to share with you also this guide. It's a guide published by our ministry, the Ministry of Industry, where we belong to. It's a dynamic guide with helps and incentives for the craft enterprises. This is updated daily, on a daily basis. If you have the presentation later, only by clicking on it, you will access directly to the guide. So you have all the current aids of the different regions, municipalities in whole Spain that are currently active. That means if you can still apply, you will have the link to these aids there. So yeah, I think that was it. It's an overview of the different type of aids that we have at regional level. And please feel free to ask us. For the people following us online, they can ask on the chat. We are going to make a session at the end with all the speakers to answer all the questions and doubts. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Hello to everybody here and from away by remote. And thank you very much for inviting us to explain you our call for craft pilot action that we based on the Irish good practice optimized. I am Elena Nanni, I'm from Florence, and I am the coordinator of Murate Idea Park. That I can say that has not a lot to do with the craft sector till now, and we are a project of a school. I'm telling you who we are, and then I go to the pilot action, okay? Well, we were born 4 years ago inside the ancient prison of Florence that is called Murate, that's why our name. And we like to say that we are in the place where before men were imprisoned, and now we disprison, I don't know if it's possible to say so, but I think that you can understand, ideas. And we are an incubator that is something like a spin-off of a school, a branch of a school that is SATI, Business and Industrial Technology Schools, that was born several years ago on public and private initiative of Municipality of Florence, the Chamber of Commerce, the Association of Industrial Companies, and the Metropolitan City in Florence. So we are in a big and well-structured ecosystem. We are few women. I'm here with my director, Gugliaberti, and also with the president, but the operative team is made by me in MIP, that I am the coordinator, and Damiana and Yolanda are at home because someone must work. We are mostly, I can say we have two focuses. We are a startup, early stage incubators. That means that in these last 4 years, we helped innovative ideas to be transformed in companies, in, of course, small companies, but all of them with technological and innovative skills to get business. We are very proud of our numbers because we made 9 calls for ideas, and thanks to our community made by partners and mentors, now we have the 70% of the startups that have been made in these years that are still alive and in good health. Of course, no one is a unicorn, but it's okay for us. Well, we accepted this challenge because, as I said at the beginning, craft sector is not really the sector where we have worked till now, but it was a very good challenge to work with artisans, also because during the pandemic, of course, who was not ready to go on with digital skills, of course, has more problem. And artisan, the craft sector had got a lot of problems with that. So we decided to offer short but intense and accelerated program in training and mentoring to transform an artisan in a digital maker. We opened the application time during 1 month, since the end of August till the end of September. And then we selected 12 artisans in all of Florence area. And 1 month ago, we began our formation and also our mentoring. We will go on till January. And at the end of our program, we will organize a big presentation event. I hope in Palazzo Vecchio, that is one of the most representative building, Renaissance, ancient building in Florence, where we have our municipality headquarters. And what do we offer to them? About 100 hours of different matters, but all digital marketing important asset that are digital strategy, content marketing, public speaking, of course, because they also have to be good and skilled in communication. They must be efficient in their communication. Social media management, marketing tools, and of course, last but not least, e-commerce. Because if they want to reach markets that are not in Florence and so on, they have to be skilled also with this. All these workshops, these 100 hours, are in group, so they do it online and all together. But in the meantime, they can also activate our mentor. As an incubator, we have startup mentors that we translated into the mentors of the artisans, and each artisan can have individual sections in different matters. If they want to go deep in digital marketing, but also in other matters like 3D printing or blockchain sometimes, or circular economy, business model, and so on. You can see here. And also the linguistic support, because in Italy we have problem with English. So it's also very important to give them a support also for the idiom to reach different markets. I say that we are a very small staff team. So how can we do that? Thanks to the ecosystem. So we are in partnership with the main association of craft in Italy, CNA Firenze and Confartigianato and Artex, that helped us to promote the call for craft and to select the 12 artisans. Then we made other partnership. These are the most important that I want to tell you because it's with two schools. ISIA Design Firenze, it is a school of University of Florence about industrial artistic design, and the student of this school will help and support the artisan about, I can say, product development for the design. While the other school, that is Fondazione Studio Marangoni, it is a photography school. So the students will do 2 photo shooting to the artisans. And of course, the artisan can have the materials, the digital materials to use in their social channels. In MIP, we have startups. One of these is MiWi, that is an agency of market research. So they will give the study about the craft sector, as it is seen also worldwide, to our artisans. You can see here who are the 12 craft ideas, and you don't know them, of course, but we are very proud to have known them. The sectors are jewelry, leather, mosaic, fashion, and objects. And all of them that are in the program now always are giving us very good feedbacks. So we are going on, we think that we are in the good direction. Of course, we are a public incubator, so the municipality of Florence is the main stakeholder, so they helped us also to be in the press, and we are very glad to tell you that last week we were in the main newspapers. Okay. And thanks to the municipality also, we made a press conference, and so we could meet all our artisans. So you can see the picture here. We were also with our deputy mayor, and we were in a very beautiful place in Florence. So I want to share this with you. And here we have more pictures in the ancient prison in Murate, where the student of photography school met and matched with the artisans. So what else? I think that we are going well. We are doing well. We keep working hard for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elena. Very interesting. And now we are going to continue with another online presentation from Italy. That is going to be presented by Costanza Materazzi.
Yeah, may I...
The presentation from your...
Share the screen?
Yeah, maybe you can check. Yeah, perfect. I will just leave the first slide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here. I'm Costanza Materazzi from Martech, and actually I bring you to all of you the apologies from Martina that was supposed to be here instead of me, but she's sick, so I'll try to give my best explanation for you to introduce you these kind of aids. The Renaissance Florence, Rinascimento Firenze. That is a good practice, a project bring on from OMA, Observatorio dei Mestieri d'Arte in Florence, an initiative proposed by Fondazione CR Firenze and Intesa San Paolo. So here we have just a brief introduction of the project that, as I said, is promoted by these two foundation and bank as well. And the aim is to promote and support the entrepreneurial projects for relaunching the economic activity in the territory of the metropolitan city of Florence, that of course, as the other territories, was really being hard hit by the economic and financial crisis after the COVID-19 pandemic, or in the middle of that as well. So the project intends to stimulate and relaunch the projects that have a clear and appreciable social impact. This is especially designed for craftsmanship and craft-based enterprises. And the meaning is that they are able to relaunch the employment and to ensure the maintenance of a healthy economic system in the territory, while also proposing the new entrepreneurial activities. So the project has 18 months of long life time, is based in Florence, and it has two different aims on the references as stakeholder. One is, as I said, is particularly referred to artistic handicrafts, and this is the ones that really interest us, all of us here. The other one is devoted to the tourism and cultural sector. So regarding the call for artistic handicrafts, the implementation of this call proposal, for this, the amount, the available ceiling is from OMA, 1 million, in the form of a non-repayable special purpose grant that will be used by OMA to disburse individual non-repayable grants to applicants who have been selected according to the criteria for access to the call, and we will speak about that later. And so regarding the project presented by the applicant, of course, it is referred criteria, as well as social impact on the territory. So these are the main effects and the main important things regarding this. So, and of course, on the positive outcome of the preliminary investigation that was carried out by Intesa San Paolo for the granting of the impact loan and the broader provision and principles contained in this call. For the implementation of the call, Intesa San Paolo, the bank, has made available a ceiling of 5 million in the form of impact loans to applicants selected by OMA. So this is a form of a co-investment. So not a total grant given, but a sort of amplification of this. So a co-investment in the initiative by the entrepreneur who owns the business, who runs the business, or its partner. And this is fundamental in order to increment equity for an amount of at least 50% of the total of the non-repayable grant. So the financial management means that shareholders, stakeholder contribution of fresh resources into the company. Then the second step is that we have a grant award by Fondazione CR Firenze. And then the third one is the impact loan by Intesa San Paolo Bank. So the size of grant, it depends, and it can vary. In the grant that which will between 20,000 and 100,000, proportionate to the project that is submitted to the Commission, the co-investment and the impact loan. And then the impact loan that is between 60,000 and 500,000. Of course, at the same time, proportionated, it depends on the size of the project. So basically, this is the structure of the final coverage, the final prospect. So the selected project and the selected SMEs bring in, for example, a new capital of 10,000 euros. Then the grant from Fondazione CR Firenze doubled that amount, and the impact loan of the Intesa San Paolo put in 60,000, for example, and this is the total. So it's something that is not just given, but it's something that is cultivated, and of course is an entrepreneurial act. Sorry. So basically, the issue are, finally, at the end of the call, Rinascimento Firenze has had 33 applications from different SMEs, and 16 have been processed as eligible. The parameters to identify possible beneficiaries are, of course, very strictly, and it's based on how representative the applicant is of the sector covered by the call. So they focus especially on craft SMEs, the quality of the project presented, and the relevance to the call that is made for give new life and new essence to the economic system and the territory. As the second point show, another parameter is how much its activity, the SME's activity, has been affected by the pandemic of COVID-19, of course. How many losses, the amount, etc. And then the third parameter is the extent to which the project generates a certain measurable and substantial impact at the social level. That is really important. So not just grants or funds given to the SMEs, but the capacity of these enterprises to make positive external outputs that has an impact at the social level. This is around the project. Is still ongoing because it's just the beginning. And if you want to know better, you can go to the website that is Rinascimento Firenze, and you can see how it works, and just call us or write to OMA, Observatory Mestieri d'Arte, to Artex for any other information regarding this. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Costanza. Finally, we have the last presentation. It's only online. It's also online, sorry, and it's presented by Rosica Vineva from Bulgaria.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hello, Rosica.
Hi.
You can start.
Regards from Bulgaria. Do you hear me?
Yeah, very well.
So, first of all, I want to present myself. My name is Rosica Bineva. I'm Chief Curator from Regional Ethnographic Open-Air Museum in Bulgaria. It's named ETER. And it's a great pleasure for me to be part of this meeting and to present the project Craftsmanship for the Future. Since the beginning of COVID crisis, the culture and the tourist sector has been among the most effective sectors because of the imposed restriction and the impossibility of the cultural organization and the tourist business to carry on their activities. Culture has been defined as one of the sectors that required urgent activities to force the national and local authorities in implement of various programs in support the cultural organization and the authors, including masters of traditional crafts who work in the open-air museums and the other ethnographic complex. Particularly difficult for were the months March to May 2020, when the museums were closed and there was a real danger in front of the craftsmen connected with them to the...
Rositza?
Yes?
Sorry, we cannot see your presentation.
Try to...
Try to close and open again. Try to leave the don't share and start sharing again. Yeah. Okay.
Now? Is okay?
Now we don't see anything? Okay, now share your screen with the presentation.
And share this. And this, okay, this one?
Okay, wait. Yeah, now perfect.
Oh,
perfect.
sorry.
Thank you very
my
much.
mistake.
Now, if you want, you can also put the full screen.
Yes,
but
yes, I try.
fine.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Now it's okay?
Yeah, perfect.
So, can I continue now?
Yeah,
Sorry
please.
for this.
If you want to start, you can start also.
Okay. So, the culture has been defined as one of the priority sectors that require urgent activities that force the national and local authorities in implement to various programs to support the cultural organization and the actors, including the master of traditional crafts who work to the open-air museums and the other ethnographic complex. Particularly difficult were the months March to May 2020, when the museums were closed and there was a real danger to the front of the craftsmen connected with them to go bankrupt, to give up practicing their crafts, and to look forward a new beginning. The state sought different ways and means to protect the cultural sector. Some of the undertaken measures were general toward the whole labor market, such as tax incentives, grant to employment, benefits to unemployed person, and other were specific toward only persons who proven experience in the field of culture and arts or keepers of traditional crafts. I want to tell you about one of such specific example. Several municipalities in Bulgaria, in which territory there are open-air museums and ethnographic complex of national importance, applied to the Ministry of Culture and to assistance and support the masters of traditional crafts in serious financial difficulties, many of whom are owners of small family farms. On this slide, you can see the basic information about the grants. To understand how important this financial support is, I will tell you that the minimal salary in our country is 650 Bulgarian levs. It's almost 325 euros. The project is realized within 1 year, 2021. There were these are the name of our institution that were supported by the Ministry of Culture. For most of these sites, the basic direction in which the project was developed was the preparation and carry out the education activities connected with the provoking interest among the young people toward the traditional crafts. With the assistance of the Chamber of Crafts and the municipality administration in the ground, a series of programs were developed, raw materials and tools for training were bought, and the workshops and place for training were renovated. As Ether Museum has been among the good experience of sustainable program for work with children and young people for many years, we have to look to another opportunity to support the masters. With the assistance of the museum specialists, a program was developed to promote each of the masters working in the museum, total 17 in the number. That's why the project was called Craftsmanship for the Future. It presents the skills of the masters in the preservation of tradition and their talent of creators, authors of original work of art. A short film in Bulgarian and English was made to each of the masters, and it will be their creative visiting card during participation in national and international events, individually or behind the museum, for presentation of social network and so on. The masters have to judgment to make a traditional and design articles. The process of making of the traditional articles is documented in all stages, and it's become a part of the film. The made of films become part of the museum collection store, and the copy is given to each of the masters. The name of articles during the project, the made articles during the project period will be included in the museum collection store, and it will be present in the country and abroad. The master use part of financial resources from this project to repair the workshops and the facilities, to buying materials and tools, and according with the project, everyone receive a fee for the sharing skills. With the help of the masters, museums experts make an information passport. It includes biograph date, description of the technological stage of the workmanship and of the traditional and design articles, and each of the passports continues photo materials. Finally, you will have opportunity to see the trailer of which we present our project. Please, I look for my colleague that must to start, yes. So that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much. Very nice video, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. we have finished with all the good practices. Now, we will have a questions and answer session. Maybe I will invite you to the speakers to come here. So if someone wants to ask you, the camera also can see who is answering. I saw one from David to Tanya, and it was, well, he was asking if we have something similar. He was asking about uco.fi, and he was saying if, yeah, you don't need to do anything. Okay. He was asking if there is something similar in Spain.
Something similar to uco in Spain.
Like, and then your colleague answered no, but then he answered again if you know some similar companies that do the same kind of work that uco does.
We have more than one of them, so it's quite likely there could be something also in Spain. So just to, like Martin, Google it.
So, but there is only that company, or there are more?
There are more than that in Finland.
Okay.
So I think there must be something also in Spain. Okay. Or if wants to, of course, if there isn't, anyone is then free to establish one.
Okay.
And also benchmark the weaknesses and strengths of these other companies abroad.
Hi, I have a question about uco also. This is only intended for craft enterprises, is the first question. And the second question is, what's the cost for using the app? Or is the app for free and then you pay for the services? How does it work?
It's for any kind of company, and it is on payment though, so it's not a completely free service. I have personally not used it, so I don't know the experience of how the cost would then accumulate. But it's, of course, if something is someone is starting an activity. Sorry, let me rephrase that. So if someone is starting an activity, get the first jobs there. So of course the share of that is not too excessive for anyone to take part in it. Otherwise they would just not have the business themselves.
Thank you.
If we have some questions here.
Thank you, Sylvia. I have a few questions. For Meter Sisters, is the workshop from bare leather and all the way to the final product? Is that included in the fee, or do you how do you, is there a net profit for you in the end? And maybe you can tell us a bit more about this business model. And you mentioned you want to shorten the workshop duration. Would you then consider kits where you pre-manufacture some of it and then they only practice a technique? For Finland, about Starttiraha, it's a list of agencies, but is there who administers, who runs the good practice? Is this a public service? And I have another one for Spain about the dynamic guide. How is it updated and who does that? Because that's a big problem of updating constantly. So thanks.
Thank you. Great questions. So first of all, about the profit, we do run different type of workshops. So we do have this 1 day long workshop, then the half day long, and the small accessories. And we have got general prices for all of the workshops. That means that so we are not pricing by the size of the bag, but by the amount of time that we have to put into the creation process. It's also really important because I have to pay my co-workers and we have to pay a lot of attention to all these people. So it would be much easier if I would be just a designer and send my designs into a factory where they can produce all these bags and then I sell them. But I wanted to change that. So the pricing of the workshops for the 1 day, 1.5 days long workshop, we ask about 160 euros per bag. That's the same price for the small bags and even the really big shopper bags. Then the 4 hours workshops, they have half of the price and quarter of the price for the small accessories like card holders and wallets. So at the moment we do have enough profits on that, because since we educate our customers and they do this month-to-month marketing, even though people think that it's a bigger amount to spend on a bag, but they start to understand what's the extra given value to these items, and that's why they are ready to pay the price even in Hungary. And the second question, I mentioned before that we are trying to shortening the workshops, and this is exactly what we would like to do. I was thinking about kits as well, but the main idea was to pre-work on the objects. We have got plenty of materials, a lot of colors, and we were thinking about to do some pre-cutting so people can come and they can terminate the bag, so they can have the final touches, the final design elements, so they will have a connection. It's more than just going into a store and buying a bag. You know, brands are trying to customize as much as they can. So in our days, you can find a lot of bag brands where they put the initials of the buyers onto the bags. And this is already giving an extra value. And I think that if we give the chance to people to finish up their bags, maybe do 30% at the end of the process, that can really add the extra connection, what we need to bring back the handcrafted goods value. This is it, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. That was interesting. So yes, those are all public organizations. It's a governmental thing. And first, it's a Business Finland Enterprise. Enterprise Finland, Business Finland that grants the money, but you must have discussions with these other organizations about the business idea. Then you structure and build it with them. You have meetings with them, and you go through all the business plans with ELY Center, for instance, and the office.
You asked about the guide of the AIDS in Spain. Okay, the guide is done by the Ministry of Industry by the Directorate General for SMEs. And they do it for different sectors. And this one is specific for the craft sectors. So the information they got, they take it from the official journals of the communities, of the regions. And there is like a publication where all these journals are publishing every day each aid or the announcements that they officially do in the regions and the municipalities. So they screen all of it, looking for this type of aids. And they have also some other organizations where they talk to, where they look for it, like public institutions on trade, for instance, and all the public administrations that issue this kind of aids, they have to publish it in a certain way. So they screen it every day and they transfer the information into this guide. And you have like the title and the main issues, and then you can also click on it, and then you got the whole information on each of the subjects. So for instance, the guide, I just looked it up yesterday, and currently it's 33 pages long, and they had at the beginning, they just put at the beginning the aids, like the title and the main information, and then at the end you have the whole information. So currently I think we have like 12, 15 aids active in Spain. So that means that you can currently apply for it, but maybe tomorrow it's only 15, and in 3 days you have 25. So it's really update and daily updates. So that it's very, very useful because you can check every day if there is something new, and that's a really good tool, I think.
Thank you. There is another question. Yeah, I will.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much for the very interesting introductions that you had earlier. My name is Sanna Halonen, and I'm a representative at the region of Ostrobothnia Council and at the culture section there. And I just wanted to comment shortly about this ukko.fi because I have a personal experience with it. I have had previously, I've been a part of a company that was doing event production, and I was doing acting in it. So ukko.fi was very good way for me to do, since I had a job in completely different field and I did this as a side thing. So it was a really, really good way to do like a small billing that way. I was able to, for example, if you do a billing for through a, how do I explain this? As a small business owner or a small entrepreneur, it's really hard to do billing, since there are so many side things that you have to include and kind of take into consideration. So it was a very easy way to do it through ukko.fi. They took care of all the extra things that had to do with billing. So since you don't have to have such a huge knowledge about all the details of it, so it was a very easy thing for a small entrepreneur. And I have heard, for example, people who are, for example, teaching yoga as a side business or doing dancing lessons in the evenings and still have a full-time job during the daytime. So people like that, it's simple and easy to do all the paperwork and billing through this ukko.fi service. So I'm not surprised at all that it is so popular in Finland. It's working quite well, and they take now, I don't remember exactly, but between 10 to 20% of the salary or whatever. They take as a percentage of the salary of the person as a cost for the process. So that's how it works. And yeah, I've been happy with it when I've been part of or had them as a working with or working doing my billing through that. So thank you. Just wanted to share that little experience of mine. Thank you. I did that for just a short period of time. So there's not like a monthly payment or anything like that to be part of ukko.fi. It's only those times when you do the billing for your business. So each time you do the billing, there's a percentage that they take from the payment.
So it's not necessary to do every month or something like that. Right?
I'm sorry?
It's not necessary. It's not necessary to do it every month. Like
No.
It's when you want.
I did it like twice a year,
okay.
So it doesn't have to be every month, and there's not a monthly payment. It's just when every time you do the billing, there's a percentage that they take from that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, first of all. It was so nice. There was someone in the room with the experience. That's always better. It just came to my mind. There's actually one ex-high school friend of mine who, while on maternity leave, she started her, because she did gymnastic and dance and everything else. So she started, little by little, started her business while being on maternity leave. Through that one, just having like a couple of sessions of Zumba somewhere in a school premise, etc. And from that one, she eventually developed a business that she ended up selling, and now she has another one. So it can be a really good kickstart for private business activities.
Yes, definitely, and it tells also about how broad variety there is, things that you can be doing, and then using the Ukko.fi as a help with the paperwork and billing and all that. So it can be a lot of different things, a lot of different types of entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for Elena from the Murano Idea Park. Murat Idea Park. Sorry. MIP. Okay. Okay. Thank you. You did that for the first time. You were working with crafts people, and I wanted to know two things. Did you notice any different about the specificities of the craft sector, that they have different needs from other enterprises or startups that you are helping? And the other thing is, I understood that you are going to finish the program in January, the first. Okay. So I wanted to ask you what your impressions are for now, or the impressions of the crafts people. Are they happy with it? And I don't know if you have any results yet that you can share with us.
Thank you for the question. Yes, Florence is a city with a lot of very small, micro, we can say, artisans companies. So, of course, their needs are different from all of big companies and so on, because in the most of cases, they are very few people, 1 or 2 or 3. They have internships sometimes from schools and so on. But this is the first very important thing. And what they complain about is that our program is very short. So, of course, they have 100 hours of lessons, 2 mornings and 3 afternoons a week. So, at the beginning, they were a little bit, so they say, we don't know if you can go on and so on. But their feedback are so good, and we know that they are participating in all the lessons. So I think that the selection was well done, because we selected 12 artisans that have their mindset in the digitalization. They know that they must do that, or they will lose their market and so on. Also because of the pandemic that accelerate the progress, but we were already going in that direction.
I have another question with your program. No, nothing. Just how many hours are the tutor? 1-to-1?
They have 3 sections of 2 hours. Okay. So they can activate 3 different mentors in 3 different mentors for 2 hours. But we are a little bit elastic. So if they do 1 hour more, it's not a problem for us. We want to be what they need. Mm-hmm. So, of course...
And maybe I missed it. How long? Like 1 month, 2 months?
No, we began the 18th October and we will finish the 15th January. So it's about 3 months. But it's very important that for artisans, Christmas time, it's a very full period of work and so on. So we tried to concentrate in 1 month and a half all the lessons. So they will finish the lessons at the beginning of December, and we will we will go on again at the beginning of January. So perhaps they had already passed the very hard working period. And so at the end of January, we will take all the results about that.
And another question, it's only for Florence, right? For now?
Yes.
And maybe you are thinking to open it to all Italy, or?
Well, of course, the method, online lessons can be run for everybody, no? But I don't know, because in Florence we have about 6,000 very small craftsman companies. So I don't know. Of course, you can do it for all the nation, but
for now you don't have.
No, we don't have now, because the selection was for 12. That is not a big number. Many of them were left outside, and they complained about that. But if we want to do a good job, we have to follow each of them. And that's why it's just for 12 different companies, very small companies.
Okay, thank you very much. Some other questions? Yeah.
Thank you. Moreover, for Laura, because I would like to understand from all these co-financing project and program all around Spain, which is the percentage of feedback? Because in Florence we have sometimes a problem that the co-financing support dedicated to the handicraft sector is sometimes either too low, because anyway the small and micro enterprises have anyway to pay something. So the percentage I saw before, sometimes a co-financing percentage of 50% is quite low. We try, for instance, to give a percentage of 85%, but sometimes it's even too low for them, because they sometimes would receive the 100% of the grant in order to improve their activities. And the second is a question for all the speakers, because I think the problem with the craft sector is to match the needs, is to match the improvement of competitiveness and the improvement of a business approach with the time that people, that craftsmen have at their disposal, with the finance, the access to finance. It's quite difficult, because also for the pilot that the MIP improved, we were expecting to receive more submission. Instead, the problem which is that the fast-track mentorship program is very compressed, is very pointed out, but we need to receive time from artisans, because if they want to improve their competitiveness, if they want to improve the capabilities, they need to match time, finance, and expertise. So I would like to share with you this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlota. I'm going to answer the first one that was directly for me. Yeah, if we have some feedback about how this is working. Normally, you have to co-finance, because you need also to show some involvement. And it's not only 20% what you co-finance. You get 80% and you co-finance with 20%. 50% is mostly for city halls, for associations, so for other public administrations, because they understand that they have more funding for it, and they can do that. And we have a lot of variety of aids, and it's different in each region. And sometimes the most common problem is that you have to spend the money first, and then you can apply for the funding, and you don't know if you are getting it or not. So many craftspeople don't ask for the funding, don't invest for something particular in digitalization, for instance, or acquiring equipment, because they don't know if they're going to get the funds afterwards. So I think that's the main issue in this type of aids. But we had, as you saw, different type of aids. Some of them are 100%, and some of them you don't have to show anything. But normally the rule is that you have to co-finance and that you have to show interest and that you have already been working on that. That's quite usual. And I don't know, I'm going to give the mic to my colleagues if they want to get back to you on the second.
I'll just talk from an Irish perspective. Balancing the time commitment and the financial access to finance as well can be tricky, but we have some supports that are 100% funded that act as a stimulus. I think particularly for craft sector that can be good because, as you mentioned, sometimes they're unaware of what the return might be, or even recognizing perhaps the value of some of the types of supports that are there until they engage in them. So there are supports such as innovation vouchers that the government will provide that will cover up to €5,000 worth of mentorship, which are free to the businesses, including the craft sector, and they act really as a stimulus. And the aim of that as well is to carve out the commitment of time first of all, before then going into further funding streams that will be part funded or co-funded later on. So that's sort of the way it works for us.
So I do have a personal experience on that, since I applied for this support when I started the company, and it was a non-refundable fund. And at the beginning, it was quite difficult to handle this as an artisan, because it was a European Union funded project that I owned, and I immediately had to start working. So they did not give me any time. I could not work for any companies for 3 years. I had to be self-employed for at least 3 years. And it meant that I had to make market. I was pressured to make market for myself immediately from day one. And as an artisan who is just starting to build up a business and a new business profile, it was quite difficult, because if I didn't find my customers, I had no money to eat, leave, or to do anything, continue the business. So that was just my personal perspective on the question.
Yep. It's me again. I have a question for Constanza, or in general for Renaissance Florence. That part which Intesa Sao Paulo would finance, the impact. The slide said that 16 craft businesses were approved as eligible. I was wondering if we can hear some examples of what kind of businesses and what their work was and what was the social impact, because just on paper it sounds great, but it would be interesting maybe to hear what the craft sector can do in terms of social impact. So maybe some examples, please.
Thank you, Nicola. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you for your question. I'm so sorry that I'm not able to answer to your question right now, because as I said, we are not inside of this project. I'm just the voice of this project today, but the owner of the good practice is OMA, Observatory dei Mestieri d'Arte. And basically, she shared with us these primarily outputs. And of course, it will be interesting for us and for everybody to know the evolvement of the story and what is going on, the process. They just anticipated me that, if I am correct, of course, 16 applied successfully, but 3 of the 33 that presented initially the project, once they gain the green light, I mean the funding. They just refuse that because of some of internal issues of the SMEs itself. So I have no data on my own here right now, and I'm so sorry, but of course it will be our main main will to involve OMA and asking them to share with us some example of who is the winner of this call and how is going on all the process. Thank you, Nicola, for your question.
Costanza. We have any other questions? It's already 1. So, no? Maybe we can finish here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Natalie. Thank you for the introduction. And today I'm going to talk to you about crowdfunding and about some best practices that we have in Belgium. I've been coaching entrepreneurs on crowdfunding for already 6 years now. And I also have a lot of entrepreneurs in the creative industry that I coach with crowdfunding. So I took some examples and I will show you how we address these things and for you guys just to get to know crowdfunding a little more. So at the end of this small keynote, you will have an idea what crowdfunding exactly can do for entrepreneurs in the creative industry. Now, first of all, the thing that you should know is crowdfunding is a funding method, but it's also, apart from finance, it is also about marketing, about building a community and getting enough visibility for your project. So it's not only about funding, it's much more than that. And that will also be the key of my story that I will bring here. First, a couple of questions for the people here in the room. Who of you knows what crowdfunding is? Okay, most of you do. Who already funded a campaign? A crowdfunding campaign? Okay, less. And who already started or maybe helped to start a campaign? More or less. And can I just quickly ask Carlotta, you first, what type of campaign it was?
Aimed to maintain and keep a behavioral environment in Florence clean clean and livable. And we help just from a communication point of view, sharing information and supporting and give a support by the municipality.
And then you also...
Maybe it's a little bit different kind of thing. It was a Patreon campaign about blogging, financing, or supporting some kind of bloggers to do their stuff. Maybe it's a little bit different than a traditional crowdfunding campaign, but more or less the same. Yeah.
It's also a very nice platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, what was the content about and what did they wanted to achieve to get enough funding to keep growing or?
Yeah, it was about in-depth analysis about sport and football and something like that, and tactical stuff and so on. And it was about to, just support the authors, 2 or 3 authors, that they can do this in-depth analysis, which is not covered in the mainstream sport journalism, something like that.
Okay, thank you for these insightful examples. I'm going to give you much more examples later on, but I'm really happy to hear that some of you already have some experience with crowdfunding. Now, for those who don't know crowdfunding, just a quick intro. What is crowdfunding? Very simplistic, but it's when you start up a campaign to successfully finance a project, and when you work with a lot of contributions, small contributions, from a lot of people, and together they help you to successfully fund the project. So that's what crowdfunding is all about. A lot of people, small contributions, and a successful project, hopefully, in the end. Now, who am I and why am I talking to you about crowdfunding? As I already said, I coached a lot of people the past 6 years to start their crowdfunding campaign. And the most important thing about crowdfunding is the preparation. So everything you do before you push the start button and you start your campaign to find funding from the crowd. I practice crowdfunding myself, so I have 2 companies. My first company is Tiny Dreams, and Tiny Dreams is a clothing label. It's a brand for petite women. So here in Spain, a lot of the women are, they're petite, but in Belgium, a lot of the women are more tall, or the mean is more tall. So I couldn't really find well-fitting clothes. And that's why I started my own clothing brands, just for people like me who are short and who have a small posture, and that's Tiny Dreams. And with Tiny Dreams, to start up such a clothing label, you need a lot of money. A lot of money for the production, but also for the marketing for your brand. And that's why I said I don't want to start with a negative cash flow, and I want to do a crowdfunding campaign to start my initial production, to get all the fabrics that I needed, but also to get a first stock for my web shop and for my physical shop in Antwerp. And I gained, I got funded for 15,000 euros. And with the 15,000 euros, I could finance my first production and my first stock. So for me, I only had to invest in marketing, and it really kickstarted the start of my clothing label. That's already 3 years ago now. And then I also have a company called Seymour, and Seymour is a communication agency. And why do I mention this? Because crowdfunding is also a lot about communication. With Seymour, I help entrepreneurs to do external and internal communication. So the press communication, but also the internal flows with their employees to make sure that there is a transparent, clear communication and that everyone knows the mission and vision of the company that they're working for. But the communication part is really crucial in crowdfunding. If you don't have a good communication, if you cannot tell the crowd what your project is all about and why you're doing this crowdfunding campaign, then no one is going to fund you. So that's why I just quickly mentioned Seymour. I'm also a lecturer at a couple of university colleges in Antwerp, and there I teach entrepreneurship, because that's also why my story in crowdfunding started, because I coached a lot of entrepreneurs and I noticed that they had a need for funding. And a lot of them were looking at traditional funding, but none of them were looking at alternative ways to get their company funded. And when you look at traditional ways, you go to a bank and you have to pay off a loan. And if you have any problems with your company, or you don't have enough customers for a couple of months, then you get into trouble. And that's why I believe that, especially for the future, we need to put more emphasis on these alternative ways of financing, and crowdfunding is one of them. And crowdfunding has a lot of other benefits apart from funding. I'm also a course developer, so in fact, I create new courses for university colleges, but also for the Chamber of Commerce, for example, for which I already did in the past. And I wrote a book on crowdfunding. This book, Crowdfunding Essentials. Unfortunately, it's only in Dutch at the moment, because it's about the Flemish landscape, but we're planning to translate it. And it's a book with a lot of cases, Flemish cases, and also a lot of cases in the creative industry. Because in the creative industry, crowdfunding has a lot of different advantages, in which I will go into deeper later on. So this is are a couple of pictures of my clothing brand. So I'm not telling you stories from something that is that I only coached. No, I really did a crowdfunding campaign. I did it myself. I experienced what the pitfalls are and what the success can be. What I also developed, apart from the book, is a toolkit. And this toolkit is also available in English for those of you who would like to have the toolkit. And it gives structure to people who want to start a crowdfunding campaign. So it gives you a checklist and all the different steps that you need to take in order to prepare your crowdfunding campaign, make it run smoothly, and also to do a good post-crowdfunding phase. Voila, this is a picture of the toolkit. So as you can see, a lot of different tools, and also a card game with a lot of trigger questions to make you critically reflect on your own crowdfunding campaign. So in the book, what's more in there except from a guide how to do crowdfunding, a roadmap and cases, there are also a lot of marketing tips in there and funders' opinions. And for me, funders' opinions are also really important, that you get to know before you start to do crowdfunding, to get to know why people invest in a crowdfunding campaign. If you don't know what drives them, then it's really hard for you to adapt your communication in your campaign to the crowd to convince them. In Belgium, when I help entrepreneurs to start up their crowdfunding campaign, I do it in groups, mainly groups of 10 to 14 entrepreneurs. And I have 3 workshop days in which I prep them on everything they need to know on crowdfunding. Those are 3 workshops of 4 hours. And then there is 1 individual coaching at the end to really prepare them to push the button of their campaign, where I can go some deeper on their campaign and I don't have to look at the rest of the group. And then we also add some support to write a press kit and have a good, strong campaign text that really convinces people to fund the campaign. And that's, I already mentioned, why communication is so important, because you have a lot of communication when you do a crowdfunding campaign. It's all about building a momentum, and you build a momentum with good communication, with well-structured messages. But looking at traditional marketing, crowdfunding is a little different. Like the words you use, the way you have to convince people in traditional marketing is a little bit different from what you do in a crowdfunding campaign, and that's why we have really individual support for people who want to build a campaign. Since the beginning of my coaching, I've supported more than 250 crowdfunding campaigns already, and 1/3 of them were in the creative industry. For me, creative industry goes from fashion, music, also people who really handcraft something. So that's for me what I define as a creative industry. And then 69 million euros is what is funded each year in Belgium with crowdfunding. 69 million euros is not that much when you look at our neighboring countries. In Belgium, we're a specific case, because in Belgium, we're still somewhat lagging behind. Whereas in the other neighboring countries, crowdfunding was already used a lot more. It was the same with e-commerce. Like, take a decade ago, in Belgium, we weren't really shopping online. We bought maybe a book online, but then we were all, when we were all terrified, is everything gonna be okay? Will the book arrive on time? Can I trust online shopping? So as a Belgian crowd, you need to know, if you do a crowdfunding in our country, there's an extra difficulty, because people, they are not so prone in taking risks, and for them, crowdfunding has long been a risk, because they didn't really know what crowdfunding was about. So the past couple of years, I've also been making people aware of what crowdfunding actually is. And in some countries, I hear that they are in the same process of really getting to know or learning, teaching their people what crowdfunding is all about. If you have people who are not sure what exactly crowdfunding means, then they're not going to fund any campaigns. So that's one thing you should definitely take home. If crowdfunding isn't all that known in your country or with the audience where you want to implement it, then you first have to teach people what crowdfunding is. And I have a quick pitch on how you can bring it to your audience. So as I mentioned, crowdfunding is an online or offline funding with a large group of funders who each do a small contribution, but there are a lot of other characteristics that you have to take into account. First of all, you need a tangible project. A tangible project is crucial, because if there are a lot of doubts about where you're going on the short term and on the long term, then you cannot sell your vision to the audience, and then of course you're not going to convince anyone. So the first question I ask when people want to do a crowdfunding campaign is, do you know exactly what you want to crowdfund? Yes or no? And that's the first of the three questions that I always check at an intake conversation with entrepreneurs. And that's, is your project tangible? If it's not tangible, then I always ask them to go through a roadmap. And that's also a roadmap that I created for entrepreneurs to create a business opportunity. But you can also use it for people who already have found a business opportunity or have a business idea, and make them check if they thought about every single aspect of that idea. And we've created a toolkit for this goal, to really make people aware that starting a business, having a business opportunity, that it's not enough just to have an idea, but that you really need to do the market research, that you have to think about the financial side, about your business model. So before they can start a crowdfunding campaign, I always make them undergo this quick process of, have you really thought about what your project and your idea really is? So this is the first version that we made of the toolkit, and I have the last version with me. Maybe I'll pass it through so you guys can take a look what it's all about. Start here, and know that I have this one with me. So one of you lucky guys, if you want to, can take it home. Okay, it's been decided. So that's the first check I do. Is your project really concrete? But then there's a next question is, what do you want as a goal amount? How much money do you need to get the project successfully funded? Because if you organize a crowdfunding campaign and you get all the money that you need, you make a promise, a commitment to the crowd who fund your project. And if the money isn't sufficient to really organize the project, yeah, then they're going to be really disappointed and maybe even mad at you. So you need to make sure that you know about the basic financials that will be part of your project. And one of them, of course, is how much exactly do you need to cover all your starting costs or the costs that you need to get to your goal. And there I also made a quick checklist, which I translated in English real quick yesterday for you guys. So if you need it, I can always also send it to you. And in fact, it's the basic building blocks of a financial plan for startups. So I always start with, what are your cost of goods sold? So how much does it cost you to create your offering, to create one product or service? That's a key number that everyone should know when they start a company. But also your pricing. What is your pricing strategy? And have you thought about the margin that you will need to survive on the long term to make it a sustainable business? Then I let them make an estimation of their sales, also to get somewhat a grip on which goal amount is attainable. If you don't plan on selling a lot, then you cannot put your goal amount really high, because then you won't get to the amount, and then your crowdfunding campaign will fail. So it has to be realistic. And I let them validate it with market research. Some basic market research, not too complicated. They can go through this process in less than a month. I also make them, I ask them to make a list of the fixed costs and the investments that they need. And then, only then, we can make up the finance mix and look at how much funding they need and which funding sources that they're going to use. And sometimes it's only crowdfunding to start up. And then later on, to grow the company, we do something different. We take on another alternative funding source, or once again, crowdfunding. And in other cases, we combine crowdfunding with other funding methods. So in Belgium, we have a lot of other alternative funding methods that are supported by governments. Sometimes we combine it with them, or with subsidies, for example, or with investors. You can combine crowdfunding with every other funding method. And that's what makes it so attractive for startups, because most of the time you're going to use a lot of different funding methods if you need a large amount of money to start up your business and to grow. So that's also important. Now I'm talking about starting your business, but you can also use crowdfunding to grow your business. But then it takes on a different shape, which I will come back to later. Yeah, and then, of course, you have to have a deadline for crowdfunding. You have to know, when do I start my campaign and how long does my campaign run? Because if you let your campaign run forever, nobody's going to be interested anymore. You really have to create a momentum. Looking at the Belgian landscape, but also at the international platforms, like, for example, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, which are really cool international known reward-based crowdfunding platforms. There, the crowdfunding campaigns, they most often take 40 to 45 days. That's the mean of the range wherein the crowdfunding campaigns run. And these 40 to 45 days, they're really hard work, because when your campaign is out there, a lot of other people can also give you input. You will notice if you do a crowdfunding campaign, you have a lot of visibility. So you have to be really, really well prepared before you push the button of your campaign. And to be prepared, you also have to work with an existing network. And the existing network can consist of your family and friends, of course, but also of people from your target audiences that you already warmed up about your crowdfunding campaign. If you don't want to be transparent on your project, if you don't want to share information from behind the scenes, then it's not a good idea for you as an entrepreneur to do a crowdfunding campaign. Because when you do a crowdfunding campaign, everything is content, everything is marketing. You need to show them everything, because people are giving you money. And people giving you money is a sign of trust. But you, as an entrepreneur, then need to earn that trust. And that's why you have to show them for what sources are you using the money, what are you exactly doing, how is your project proceeding. So that's really important. If some entrepreneurs are interested in crowdfunding, make them aware that they really have to engage with the people and that they have to be transparent about literally everything, even if something goes wrong. To do a crowdfunding campaign, you can do it on your own website, but there are also crowdfunding platforms. Now, the reason why you can best use a crowdfunding platform is because if you do a crowdfunding on your own website, then it costs you a lot of money. Why? Because if you have to invest yourself in all things legal that surround crowdfunding, in the terms and conditions, in the features that a normal crowdfunding campaign offers, then you lose a lot more money if you have to do it yourself than when you work with a crowdfunding platform. Of course, it depends whether you already have a business that's up and running, and if you already have a web shop and a big community behind it, and you already have all the legal stuff, then for those entrepreneurs it can be interesting if they want to bring out a new product or if they want to grow, to do a crowdfunding campaign on their own website. But most of the time we do advise them to use an existing crowdfunding platform. Why? Because all the crowdfunding platforms, they have the same structure that you see here. And a crowdfunding platform for the crowd feels like a third party, a regulator, that's between them and the entrepreneur. So they feel like if I give it through a platform, then they'll make sure that my money is well handled. In fact, it's not so. The entrepreneur has a lot of freedom with crowdfunding, and they're always protected. So the entrepreneur is more protected than the one who gives a contribution, because it's expected from them that they know it's experimental way of funding. But yeah, your crowd doesn't have to know. So that's why I always advise to work with a crowdfunding platform. And it's also really cool because the only thing you have to worry about, and it's already a lot, but still, is to fill in that crowdfunding page. And what is on a crowdfunding page? There's a pitch video where the project owner explains in the video what the project is all about, what they want to realize, and why they're looking for you to contribute. On the other side, you see the goal amount. So with this campaign of the Geeky Cauldron, they set a goal amount of 10,000 euros, and they attained more than 15,000, so it was a successful campaign. And you see the number of contributors that also took part in the crowdfunding campaign. Underneath the video is the campaign text, and there you explain what the project is about, why you use crowdfunding, and for what you're going to use the money. And later on, there's a small piece about the project owner and why they are the best placed persons to do this project and how they are going to make it successful. And then here on the right side, you have all different type of rewards, because that's how you trigger people to make a contribution. And especially when looking at crafts, for example, is you give them something in return, which can be a product, but it can also be an experience, and it can even be a big thank you, because you have a lot of different people. The crowd has a lot of variety, and they are all gonna be in the crowdfunding campaign for different reasons. But you have to convince them with a reward, and of course with the project and the project owner. Now, this campaign was a really cool story because it's one of my friends with which I studied. And he came to me when I was working at the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And back then, I was also helping entrepreneurs to do a crowdfunding campaign. And he had this cool passion for everything geeky. So what do I mean by everything geeky? He went to every event where he could do cosplay, and he had a lot of friends who were into the Matrix and Harry Potter, and it's really a part of their identity. But they felt like in Belgium, apart from the events where everyone with the same interests come together, there's not really a place where you can show this. And that's why he wanted to make a pub in Antwerp, where you could really walk into the scenery of a sci-fi fantasy movie. So he came up with this idea to build a bar with, on the one side, a sci-fi side, and on the other one, a fantasy type of decor. And he really wanted to make it feel like you were walking into a movie scene of Harry Potter, The Matrix, Lord of the Rings, and you really needed to recognize these things in the bar. Really cool project, but of course, as you hear me talking, I think you guys are also wondering, yeah, this costs a lot to do everything really good, the way that you can convince people, and that everything looks realistic. So yeah, that was indeed a problem. We needed money. But no problem for me, because I already thought about crowdfunding, especially because there is a really strong geeky community. There are, or there is a niche target audience of people who really embed this in their identity and who love to cosplay, who love these movies, and that's the target audience that we focus on. So we did this crowdfunding campaign, got funded, and we didn't expect that it would be such a success, because we needed to close the crowdfunding campaign when we got to more than 15,000 euros. And then there were two people that came to the project owner, and they said, like, we love the project so much, we want to invest in you. And then, because of the crowdfunding campaign and the visibility that he got, there were two investors who each gave 50,000 euros with super good conditions. So he had not 15,000, but in the end, 115,000 to make up his bar. And yeah, you can visit it if you're in Antwerp, if you want to, because it's still there. And they're doing big business because they have such a niche crowd, and they organize board game nights. Everything on the menu is also what's on the menu in, for example, the Harry Potter movies. And yeah, it's really cool. And there's even a tree in the pub. Like, it's an amazing project, and it all came into existence because of this crowdfunding campaign. But sometimes it can be a bit much. A lot of people also come to me to look for advice. What crowdfunding platform do we need to use, Natalie? Because there are so many crowdfunding platforms. There are local crowdfunding platforms, national, international, and sometimes it's hard to see what type of platforms that can be interesting for you as an entrepreneur. Of course, I can only talk for Belgium and how we do things there. But there are these are the main platforms that are used by Belgian entrepreneurs. The ones in the frame are platforms for reward-based crowdfunding platforms, and the ones on the other side are platforms that we use for financial crowdfunding. So now I've been talking about reward-based crowdfunding, but there are a couple of different types of crowdfunding. Reward-based is really good for crafts, for creative industries, but if you want to grow your company, if you already exist for 1-2 years, if you're a scale-up, or even if you are just a regular entrepreneur who's been in his industry for 5-10 years, and then you want to take the next step, you can look into crowdfunding with a financial aspect, and we call that equity or lending-based crowdfunding. And equity and lending-based crowdfunding, also real simple. In fact, with lending-based, the crowd gives you a loan, and you get as a funder a financial return. With equity, you in fact sell your shares on a crowdfunding platform, and the people buy a piece of your company. So these are the platforms that all do financial crowdfunding. And what we see in Belgium is that in the beginning, there were only the somewhat older, more stable growers that could do the financial crowdfunding, but it keeps on shifting. And now even there are a couple of examples of companies who are only existing for 6 months or a year that are doing financial crowdfunding, and the goal amounts there are a lot higher. There are campaigns in Belgium of 1 or 5 million euros of these really young companies that have a high potential on growth and that want to grow through the crowd and by engaging them. What is also an advantage of doing it with the crowd, your startup and your growth, is that you really commit people to your company. If you have bought shares or given a loan or even bought a reward of a company, then you feel more connected to them, and then you become an ambassador, and then you want the company to thrive. And that's also an important reason why to do crowdfunding. But let's talk about the reward-based platforms in Belgium that are the most used. On a national level, we have Ulule, Hello Crowd, and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. They all have a different focus. Like Ulule is the most general platform. There are a lot of different projects from different industries, whereas Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is a platform that's in our country known for a focus on the creative industry. So it's more music, video, like you said, bloggers. In the beginning, that's also something that's under Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in our country. But also what you said, Patreon is also used sometimes. And Hello Crowd has always had a focus on fashion, and that's also where I did my crowdfunding campaign on Hello Crowd. And then the international platforms, you have the two biggest international platforms, which are Indiegogo and Kickstarter. Who knows them or has heard of them? Okay. Yeah. I think what's really cool about these international platforms is that they're also driven by innovation. There are a lot of different type of projects that launch their campaign on these two platforms, but most of them, or the most successful ones, are really driven by some kind of innovation, a new thing, and Also, what we see on Kickstarter, for example, is that the gaming industry also has a big advantage in crowdfunding, because Kickstarter has a big or is a large database of funders who are mainly interested in gaming. But either way, if you want to take your project to an international level and you have a tangible product, then Indiegogo or Kickstarter are the platforms that I advise. But for me, when I help people to start up a crowdfunding campaign, I always advise them first to go with a national campaign and then later on go for an international campaign. So they can get used to what crowdfunding is, how they can use it, and only then when they're experienced, they can take it up to the next level and combine this second step with internationalization of their company. Crowdfunding is a local platform in our country, and you have crowdfunding in all the big cities. So you have crowdfunding Brussels, crowdfunding Antwerp, and it's mainly used for projects that are locally embedded. For example, city gardens, or Carlotta, what you said in the beginning, that could be a project that would also be locally embedded in such a platform as crowdfunding. So these reasons I already mentioned why it's important to use a crowdfunding platform and not to do it yourself. So I've talked a lot about reward-based crowdfunding. So I'm going to show you some stories from Belgian crowdfunders who did a reward-based campaign and who made their initial customers really happy and got funded in the meantime. So the first project is also one of the first projects that I coached. It was back then when crowdfunding wasn't all that big in Belgium. So we were really curious to see what would happen. And it was Charlotte, and Charlotte was a student entrepreneur, and she started her own shoe brand, a shoe brand for women with large feet. She had a size 43. Herself, and she couldn't find any beautiful, elegant shoes for women with large feet. So that was her mission. She wanted to make sure that all the large-feeted women, that they had enough choice and they could also wear beautiful shoes. So we started with a small heart. We were like, okay, we don't know what's it gonna give, but let's go with the crowdfunding campaign to do an initial funding. And we combined the crowdfunding with a special government loan. So we got a government loan for 10,000 euros. And then we added crowdfunding also for 10,000 euros. And we made a success out of the campaign, not only by getting the funding that we needed, but also because of the media coverage that she got. Also because she was like one of the first student entrepreneurs who really did a successful crowdfunding campaign back in the days, and you couldn't open up any newspaper and she was in it. She was on the cover of magazines, and a lot of people got to know her brand, and that's how she started up her company successfully. And through the crowdfunding campaign, there was something else, because in fashion, whatever you do, if you do handbags, clothing, shoes, you have to buy your stock before the start of the season, of course, and you have to invest in the next season before you've already sold your current season. And that can be a problem for your cash flow. But Charlotte didn't have that problem. Why? Because she pre-financed her first stock. So people could really buy the first collection of shoes. And that's how she came to grow organically and sustainable. By the way, just so you guys know how she's doing today. Today she's in education, and she sold her company 2 years ago now. So after 4 years, she decided to sell her company, and the company still exists today, but it has a different owner. And the reason was because she had a lot of pop-up shops, but she didn't like to be in the shops herself. So she felt like, this is not my passion anymore. And then she moved on to the next challenge. Another cool story, a sustainable story, is Michiel and Anneleen. You see here, they're 2 people from Brussels, and they wanted to make the world a more sustainable place. And one of the most crucial industries in that given part of sustainability is the food industry. The food industry, and especially for the meat lovers here in the room, sorry to break it to you, but of course meat isn't really good for the environment. So they wanted to find a way to reduce people eating meat, but still have the necessary proteins and vitamins that they needed. So what they did is they took a look at what they could do with insects. And that's how they came up with cricket. And cricket are snack bars, candy bars, healthy bars, whatever you want to call them. And they're filled with fruit, nuts, but also insects. But the insects, just so you guys don't have any nightmares later on, they're processed. So it's not like there's a full insect in one of their bars. And they also did it because in the years before, I think it was 2012, 13, there was another entrepreneur in Belgium, and he started a company where he sold burgers with insects. And it didn't work. So he got funding, but funding from the bank, from an investor, not from the crowd, by the way. And that's something really crucial. And he started, or they started selling burgers with insects in supermarkets. Sorry, I'm just gonna take a drink. And what they noticed was that people weren't ready yet to eat insects, especially in burgers, because burgers, they have to be served as your lunch or dinner, and people were still somewhat afraid to eat insects. Even when I said earlier on that they were using insects in their bars, I saw some people here in the room looking like, I don't want to eat insects. And for a snack, when it's processed, it's not even that worse, but if you see it in a burger, then it really confronts you, and the market wasn't ready. So they had a really cool project. There were also two really good entrepreneurs, but because their market timing was off, and they couldn't, or they hadn't validated the burger as a carrier of the insect food, they didn't manage to build a successful company. And that's what they noticed really well. They noticed, like, for Belgians, they really think about what they eat for lunch and dinner, and they think about it really in a conscious way. They're, hubby, what are we gonna eat tonight? Or kids, what do you like? Yeah, do you have a question? Okay, yeah. Or what do you want to eat? And it's really a social thing to serve dinner or lunch. But with snacks, in Belgium, people snack really unconsciously. So they just grab a snack real quick and they put it in their mouths, and it's gone before they even notice it. That's maybe somewhat extreme, but that's how we look at snacking. So we are a real snacking culture. Don't know if that's the same for you guys, but and that's why they said, well, if we want to learn to the people how to eat insects, then we have to start with the snacks instead of the main courses. And because the Ben's Burgers, which was the company with the burgers, because they only got money from a couple investors, they said, we're not going to make the same mistake and only look at investors. No, we're going to do a crowdfunding campaign, not necessarily for the money, but for the market research, to see whether people are already ready to eat snacks with insects. And that's how they validated their project, because they were really looking into, do they really want to buy our product, yes or no? And they involved the crowd. The next one on the picture in the red suit is Dries Bols. Dries Bols, he did a lot of things in the energy market in Belgium, and he's still going strong. It's like one of the people that we're gonna hear a lot from in the future, since the energy crisis is coming up. But he started with 3 Kickstarter campaigns. He did 3 Kickstarter campaigns with a product and then a couple of add-ons, and he made a power bank on solar panels, and he did it already 10 years ago or so. And then a couple of years later, he did a crowdfunding campaign. And every time he did a crowdfunding with his solar panel power banks and with all the add-on products, they were a really huge success on Kickstarter. So good of a success that he most of the time did a second campaign on Indiegogo for the same product to get more money and to reach more funders. The woman standing next to Dries is Anne Rotiers, and she has a company called Anzi, and she does the reverse thing of Charlotte. She makes, or she has a shoe brand for people with tiny feet. So she starts from a size 33, and she only goes to size 37, so only for the women with really tiny feet, because apparently that's also a problem. And then the last one is Madalena, and Madalena, she wanted to, she's graduated at our Fashion Academy in Antwerp, which is a real known academy of fashion and arts. And she decided to cut the supply chain and bring cashmere minimalistic clothes closer to the people, and also closer from the source, without them having to pay as much as you have to do for a cashmere sweater or scarf in a boutique. Because there, of course, you have the extra added margins of the suppliers and of the retailers. And that's why she did a crowdfunding campaign, and we got 30,000 euros in total to start up her own clothing label. And maybe something that everyone knows, because some think crowdfunding is something new. Yeah, maybe the word crowdfunding is something new, but crowdfunding has been going on for ages. And this is also a somewhat older example, and I don't know if any one of you know the story behind the Statue of Liberty. Does anyone know the story? You do? Okay, but just maybe tell me what the story is all about.
Well, I think I do remember that it's a gift from France to the United States.
Yeah, thank you very much, because that's completely true. It's indeed a gift from France to the US. And they received this beautiful statue, but then they were like, what are we going to do with the statue? We have to give it a prominent place for people coming into America, that they immediately see it. But if you put the statue on the ground, yeah, it's not that quite that impressive anymore. So they wanted to build a pedestal, the pedestal that you see here. And for the pedestal, they did a crowdfunding campaign. They did a reward-based crowdfunding campaign in the New York Times, where you could donate, contribute an amount that you chose yourself, and then in return you got a certain reward that they mentioned your name, or they gave you a miniature statue. So that's something you can tell your friends if you're visiting the Statue of Liberty. The pedestal is crowdfunded. Now, since I've been talking about how crowdfunding works and that it's quite an undertaking, because you have to make this video, you have to build communication, you have to prepare everything, you've already noticed it takes up a lot of time to do crowdfunding really well and to have a strong foundation. So why should you advise then entrepreneurs who already have not that much time and for whom time is money to do a crowdfunding campaign? What are the huge advantages of crowdfunding instead of going to the bank, asking for a loan to start up your business or to grow? Well, I've listed them here for you. Of course, funding and visibility are two things that I mentioned a lot. And like I said with the example of cricket, if you start with a new project, it can be a really cool way to immediately validate your product or your service. Because if I would do traditional market research, and let's say that I produce water and I want to build a new water brand, and I go to Hilde and I do traditional market research and I say, Hilde, do you like water?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and how often do you drink water?
5-6 times a day.
Okay, and how do you feel about this bottle? Would you buy this?
Maybe.
Maybe, but look how beautiful it is.
It's a bottle.
Okay, critical, but okay. How much would you give for this bottle?
85 cents.
85 cents, okay. Okay. Tough crowd, but still, what I wanted to show you is that now I'm asking Hilde these questions. I'm doing traditional market research, but Hilde has just been to the restaurant and she already drank water, so she's not thirsty at the moment, which changes her perspective, and she wants to, probably you want to give more for this bottle if you're in the desert on a hot day and you haven't been drinking for 2 hours. So there are a lot of factors that influence market research. But also the thing is with market research that when you ask people whether they like it or think it's beautiful or whether they will buy it, most of them just answer yes because they're polite. So there are a lot of factors that make crowdfunding really, that make traditional market research really hard to come up with accurate data to really build your foundations on for the rest of your company. And the thing is that the first thing that you have to check is whether there's demand. That's one thing. But you also have to know that people are willing to pay the price that you need for your product or service. And that's something that you can easily check in your crowdfunding campaign, because you're not just asking, Hilde, do you like this water? You're like, no, Hilde, if you want this water, you can buy it here in my crowdfunding campaign, and this is the price. And then you accurately know whether people will buy your product and at which price. Another thing is the attention from investors, like with the Geeky Cauldron. Crowdfunding is often a campaign that leads to other types of funding and to other people whose interests are aroused because of your crowdfunding campaign. You create an involved network of ambassadors, all the people that fund your crowdfunding campaign. They will actively promote you. There's been studies that when people fund a crowdfunding campaign, that they actively talk to their network about the product or the service that's been crowdfunded. So they really feel like they're part of the success. And that makes you and these ambassadors really strong for the potential and for the future growth of your company. Yeah, it's also a lever for other funding, but that's something that that's been obvious, I believe. Sometimes crowdfunding leads to another thing; it can be easily combined. And the cool thing, especially for people in crafts and the creative industry, is that there's a low initial investment, because you don't have to invest a lot of money to do a crowdfunding campaign. It's practically free. You only have to pay a success fee at the end when you get your money on the platform. Like when I got my 15,000 for my clothing label, when I reached it and I got the money, then I had to pay a small percentage to the crowdfunding platform, and it differs from one platform to another. The percentages, they are between 7 and 12%, and maybe some of you think that's a lot, but it's not a lot for what they offer, all the features and all the legal support and visibility. A last thing is, because crowdfunding, or as it is in Belgium, is still quite innovative, is still something that you get a lot of visibility with also in the media. So the media coverage is also a cool thing that, that comes from doing a crowdfunding campaign. When I coach entrepreneurs, one of the questions I always ask them at the beginning of crowdfunding is, why do you want to do a crowdfunding campaign? Is it because you really need the money for the project? Is it because you want to do market research? Or do you just want to reach more people? And that's a really important question, because based on what they want as a strategy, you are going to decide your next steps and your communication. So that's one of the beginnings. And another question is, how do you see crowdfunding? Do you see crowdfunding as a one-time thing, or do you want to be a serial crowdfunder? Serial crowdfunding is really interesting, because every time you do a second, third, fourth crowdfunding, your community gets tighter, you already have a database, and you get funded a lot quicker. Whereas some people may think like, oh, doing a second, third crowdfunding campaign, isn't the crowd going to get tired of funding my campaign? No, on the contrary. They feel like every step you're taking forwards, they can once again be part of, and your existing network and community around the project keeps on growing. And a really beautiful example of serial crowdfunding, apart from Dries, from Life Power that I already mentioned, from the solar power banks, is Waka Waka. And Waka Waka is an example, not from Belgium, but from the Netherlands. But they're really an exception because they already did more than 10 crowdfunding campaigns. They started with a reward-based crowdfunding campaign, nationally an international one. Then they also did a lending, they did an equity campaign, and they took the funders that they had and the community that they built, they took them with them towards every step. Now, what is their business model? What do? They are somewhat alike to Dries Bos. So they also created a light on solar panels. And for every light, and you have small lights, big lights, that you buy, a small light goes to people in Africa. Why? Because a lot of the people in Africa, they're working in crafts. So that's why I also chose this example to have a connection with what we're here for today, of course. And the crafts industry is an important source of income for many of these people. And without the income, they would have a lot of poverty. So they set up a social model, and their mission is to bring light all over the world. And then for everyone here that buys such a light, in what shape ever, a big one, a small one, a light goes to Africa, so that the people there who work in crafts but who don't have the electricity there can also work when it gets dark and still build for a source of income. And I took one of their campaigns, and just to show you how you build a momentum in your crowdfunding campaign and how it works. Because if you prepared your communication, if you start with your existing network, then the first thing you do is organize a launch event. It can be online, can also be offline, where you create a first boost for your crowdfunding campaign and bring a lot of people together. Bringing a lot of people together leads to social pressure, because of which a lot of people will fund at that same moment. And that's really important, because the beginning of your crowdfunding campaign determines the success that you will have in the end. Like the first 4 hours in the crowdfunding campaign, they are the most crucial. So you see, you build up your own peak with a launch event, and the first couple of days in a traditional campaign, a lot is funded, so you have a peak at the beginning, and then you have this, sometimes some days you got funded a little more, then a little less, but in the middle you have this drop. And then at the end of the campaign, because there are only a couple of days left, and you say it's now or never, if you really want to step into the project, then you have to fund now, you see a ginormous peak. And that ginormous peak is what we call the sense of urgency of crowdfunding, the now or never feeling, like you have to do it now if you want it. And especially on, for example, Kickstarter, you have a lot of innovative projects where people can be the first to buy something, to test something, and then they're really, really excited, and then you see a huge peak the last couple of days from the people who were doubting all along. I've created some strategies along the years also to give campaigns a midway boost, because the drop in the middle, you somehow also want to prevent this. You want to make sure that you're creating peaks of your own. And that's also something that I try to work with my entrepreneurs, creating peaks during the whole campaign, not just at the beginning and the end, but that's traditionally how a campaign, how the flow of funding goes. I'm going to let you in on the basic tool, on the foundation of my crowdfunding coaching, and that's the crowdfunding canvas. And it's based on the business model canvas, but it's a business model canvas for your crowdfunding campaign. So it has the same structure, but of course it has a different way of filling in the blanks. It's in Dutch, but I also have have an English version of those who want this. What I always start with is the why and the what of a crowdfunding campaign. And why? Because it's the foundation of your communication and what you are going to say to convince people to step into your project and really push the button and contribute to your project. I don't know if any one of you, probably you know the golden circle of Simon Sinek? Yeah, who knows this? No? Okay, cool. Then this is a really important thing in entrepreneurship. Doesn't matter what industry, but this is really a principle or a method that everyone should know. Simon Sinek, he says there are three layers in the way that people present their company to the world, whether it's a startup or a growing company, doesn't matter. A lot of people, they talk about what their company is all about. They also say how they do something, so how they make their products or services and what's so special about them, but not a lot talk about why they do something, so their true mission, or when they do, they only say it after they talked about what they do and how they do it. So it only comes at the end. But Simon Sinek says, like, if you want a message to stick, if you want people to be convinced by your value proposition, the value that you're adding for your customers, you have to start from why you do something, only then talk about how you do something, and the last thing that you say to them is what it is exactly that you do. So you should work from the inside to the outside, whereas we see traditional companies working from the outside towards the inside, and most of the time not even getting to why they do something. Whereas for us as customers, it's the most important thing to know is why are they doing something? Because in the why, there's also the story of the company, and we are a sucker for stories. The thing is, today, you can talk about B2B, you can talk about B2C, but the only thing that really matters is H to H, human to human, making human connections, making or putting people in your company first, making them identify with other people, whether it are your employees, your customers, but there has to be a human connection, because people buy from people. They're not buying from companies. Sometimes they love a brand, but it takes a long time to build that up, and especially for starting entrepreneurs, it takes also a lot of money and marketing to do that. And in crowdfunding, there's an extra level that I added that's important, and that's, of course, who you are. Because of that human connection, you have to have a sort of goodwill from your audience, because they're also investing in you as a person, not only in the project, but also in the person who is going to make it happen. So that's an extra level to the golden circle method of Simon Sinek that I added. And the way you communicate in crowdfunding, but even as a company, is also really important, and is important for the perception that you have with people. I don't know if you guys know the concept of positive framing. Most of you do. So you can put the same message in, or you can steer the same message in two different directions. Like you see here, both bottles, they say the same, but the one is positive framed and the other one is negative framed. If you say it contains 20% fat, then it's the truth, but you frame it negatively. If you say it's 80% fat-free, then you give people a better feeling when they buy this yogurt. And they did an actual test in a supermarket with yogurt, with these two messages, and they saw a high peak in the revenue when they framed it positive, whereas when they framed it negative, lesser people bought the yogurt. So that's the same thing with crowdfunding. You can say, oh, I want you guys to help me realize my dream, my project, or you can say, I need money. That's another way of putting the same thing, but if you frame it positively, you get a lot of people who have the goodwill and who want to support you. To conclude my presentation, I will give 3 tips that I will give to everyone who wants to do a crowdfunding campaign. And yeah, I of course I made it for the Belgian landscape, but I think that these are tips that you can use everywhere. But the first thing is typical for the Belgian market because the crowdfunding is not that known there. Not a lot of people practiced it or funded a campaign. So the first thing you always have to do is explain crowdfunding to people. And the couple of important things that you should mention is that every contribution matters, even if it's €1, because it is about these small contributions making a big whole and getting to a final result. Second thing is there's, in fact, nothing to lose. If they contribute and the project is finished successfully, then they get a beautiful reward. If not, then the money goes immediately back to them. That's how platforms work. And that's also interesting for you to know. If the project cannot attain the goal amount, then the platform immediately gives the money back to the funders who have funded the day after the deadline has passed. So there's, in fact, no real risk in reward-based crowdfunding. Looking at lending and equity-based crowdfunding, of course, there are some more risks involved, but still, our government really regulates this really well, and you get a risk profile. And as a Belgian citizen, you cannot go over a certain amount of investments, and so still it's quite protecting. So nothing to lose is a good one to explain to your audience. And then you also have to help them in how to fund, because you want to attract as many people as possible in your crowdfunding campaign. You want to build a diverse crowd, work on different target audiences. That's also really special about crowdfunding. If you would sell your product or service as an entrepreneur and you just start, then I would advise you to really focus your target audience. Rather choose a niche than focus on too many people, because then you're never going to convince them. But here in crowdfunding, you not only want your target audience, you also want love money from people from your network, from your family, from your friends. And they're not all digital natives. So when you work with a platform, like I also did, I wrote a script in how that they had to fund. So I really helped them, sometimes even with personal assistance on my launch party, where I set up a lot of computers and banking add-ons that they could fund at the moment, and that no funder was lost in the process, that they really knew what to do. And then a thing that can help, obviously, is when you put rewards out there for different contributions, make sure that the rewards are clear and that people know exactly what they will get for the money that they will give. In crowdfunding, spamming is key. That's maybe a bit extreme, but you have to pitch your project a lot when your crowdfunding campaign runs, because you want to reach as many people as possible. And studies have shown that when you tell people your story once, it doesn't stick. You have to repeat it up to 7 times before people really remember your story, and they can really also pitch it to other people, what also is an important thing about crowdfunding. So you have to make sure to, while you're doing the crowdfunding campaign, you stay top of mind, and that you keep on pitching and communicating about your project. And some people feel like that's spamming, but that's part of the job. If you do a crowdfunding campaign, you really have to be eager to tell about your project, and to make sure that you use a lot of different channels so that people see you all the time. A good way to test this is every crowdfunding platform has a trending page where you can see how well you score between other projects. That's also a tip. If you're not in the trending top 10, then you need to do a little more communication, do a little more effort. But of course, it depends whether you crowdfund international. There are a lot more projects that launch every day, so sometimes that's harder to stay at the top of the trending page. And then the last one is cash in on the success and the attention that you get. Crowdfunding is a one-time momentum, and you really have to make sure that you grab that momentum and that you use it. When you get media attention, you see people reacting, make sure that you are also engaging, that you lead them towards the platform, and even after the campaign, that everyone who has shown interest or that clicked on your page, and you get a lot of data from the crowdfunding platforms, which is also pretty cool. Then you know who is clicked and where do they come from. And then you can really do further research on your ideal customer profile and use it to build your company further on. If you're interested in the crowdfunding toolkits, unfortunately, not the whole toolkit is in English, but we can also give you the digital tools if you want to take a look at them. Some of the parts are in English, others are still in Dutch, but we can arrange something to get it in full English. And these are questions also in Dutch, but the trigger questions that help people to really get a grasp of what do we need to think about, how can we make our crowdfunding campaign stand out. Voila, if you want to know more, you can always email me, add me on LinkedIn, and I'm still here to answer all of your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Well, if you have some questions, if you have any questions or any doubt, but she explained it so well that I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Nathalie. What happens if a crowdfunding action does not succeed? You have obviously also negative examples. What do the crowdfunders and initiative takers do then?
So, yeah, I can say that the success rate of the crowdfunding campaigns that I coached is quite high. I only had one campaign that failed because they chose the wrong platform. But if you notice as a crowdfunder that your campaign isn't going all that well, then it's better to stop it yourself instead of going through with it and spending a lot of money and knowing that you won't make up with it with the funding in the crowdfunding campaign. Because most of the time you see after 1 week, you can already tell whether a crowdfunding is going to be successful or not. If you haven't attained 20 to 30% of your goal amount in the first week, then you're probably not going to make it, because it really builds in these kind of momentums. So you stop it yourself and stop the effort. And if you stop the campaign, of course, you have to reflect on why wasn't my campaign successful. It can be a number of reasons. Maybe your target audience isn't shopping online or doesn't work with crowdfunding platforms. Maybe there was something wrong with your communication. You haven't prepared very well. Or maybe there is no demand on the market for your product or service. And in that case, that can be a really good lesson for you as an entrepreneur, that maybe this is not a validation of your concept, but is a warning and is a reason for you to pivot or look into other directions with your project. So yeah, that's probably about it. If for the funders, for example, if you funded a campaign and it fails as a funder, then you get your money immediately back after the deadline, and it's as if nothing has happened. And also as an entrepreneur, you don't have to pay anything if you don't reach your goal amount.
Thank you.
Voilà.
Hi, Nathalie. Thank you for the presentation. I just follow you from LinkedIn and send you a connection. And I'm an industrial designer, which we had a small startup at the incubated. Now it's a small company now. And I have two questions. First one is about the toolkit. Is it a toolkit that you prepared, or is it some corporate something which customized for crowdfunding? Yes, I think it is like that. The first one is that how can we customize that kind of toolkits if we want? And the second, you didn't talk about intellectual properties of crowdfunding because, well, I'm a designer and that's the problem for us. So when you crowdfund the product you designed, you open the source. So, and you have to protect this before crowdfunding, and protection is, expensive. So what can you say about this issue? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with the first question and a really good second question. But the first question about the toolkit. So it's the toolkit that's been going around, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I created it when I worked for the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Antwerp a couple of years ago. And I created it really to give structure to people who wanted to start their own business. So some of the tools that are in the toolkit are the open source tools like Business Model Canvas, but most of the tools I really created myself, and they are used for the Chamber of Commerce. So they were my customer, but also my employer at the time. And at the moment, there are more than 1,500 of these toolkits that are used all over
You bring
Flanders.
one here?
Sorry?
You bring one of them here?
Yeah.
Yes, it's only one?
I only brought one, because I only had hand luggage, so yeah.
So I have to steal it.
So you have to steal it, yeah. You can fight over it, no worries. No, but the thing is about the toolkit, maybe also a question for everyone here in the room. But I've been working on a second version because this was the first version of a toolkit, and I made it for the chamber. But when you create something, and you probably know as a designer, then you see ways to improve and to build a better design. So I have a second updated other version of the toolkit, a larger one, which also contains a lot of information on funding and finance, which isn't in there at the moment. And I thought that was a flaw amongst a couple of other things that could be better and updated. So, and I want to build this and I want to make it open source because I am a true believer of tools being open source. So if anyone of you maybe has a project or something else with which we can build this toolkit open source, everything I've worked out, everything is just the print, the branding that still has to be done. So voila, a second toolkit is already made, but has to be still marketed, but as an open source
if
tool.
you want, I can pleasurably work with you. Because there are some, I saw there should be something about UX and UI in the toolkits, and about the interfaces. I couldn't see them in this toolkit.
I agree, and I also thought about making one toolkit for product-based companies and another one for service-based companies. So, yeah, I do agree that there should be something about UI, UX design. Yeah, true. And then to come up to your second question on IP. It depends a lot, indeed, on what type of IP, because there, of course, are a lot of categories. But if you are really working with something that has to be protected, where you have to go through a patent procedure, then crowdfunding isn't the way to go, because it's too transparent. So unfortunately, that's something, you cannot give anything for grasps. On the other hand, there have been companies who did something that could be patented, but they didn't, and they used crowdfunding as a first platform. Like, I don't know if you know who was the first brand to create a smartwatch. Does anyone know who created the first smartwatch? The really updated one as we know today. No guesses? Come on, guys. No one? Okay, because when I ask most of the people in the room, they think that it's Apple who created the first smartwatch, but it's not true. It was in fact Pebble. So the Pebble was the first smartwatch, and they did a crowdfunding campaign. They didn't patent it, and then Apple, after a couple of successful crowdfunding campaigns, they had a couple of millions in revenue, so they had a first real good go-to-market. But then Apple, with their huge marketing budget, just stole. In fact, yeah, you cannot say steal because it was another design, but yeah. So that's the danger of crowdfunding indeed. And it's something that you have to think about yourself. Do you want to invest in a patent, or do you just want to have the first growth? Do you have enough commercial, technical, Hilde, help me, voorsprong? Nee, voorsprong. No, that's not really what I mean. Do you have enough... With the commercial and the technical advantages that you have, do you have enough time to, through the advantage, to really get ahead of the competition and get your project in the market for a couple of years before another one takes over your design or your technology? Yeah, I know.
Sorry, if you don't have the micro, the people online don't listen to you, so only talk with the microphone. We really need to finish up. We are 20 minutes late. They are waiting already for a study visit. I'm going to hand in the mic for one last question so that we can finish as soon as possible. And
but
sorry,
I will go on the study visit, so if you have any questions, just...
That's I wanted to say. You can keep asking Natalie afterwards. Sorry for the people online, but we really have a tight schedule and we need to finish as soon as possible. So Miriam?
Thank you. I'll be quick. Thinking about the craft SMEs and artisans, which are our main audience also for this project, how do you see it feasible for an artisan to start up a crowdfunding campaign on its own? Or how important would be to rely on a crowdfunding advisor as you are, and how much would it cost this kind of support for an artisan?
So is it feasible on your own? Yes, it is, but it's a lot of work. Like if you have to do it on your own without any help, then it can take up to 6-7 months to really fully prepare every part of your crowdfunding campaign. So that's a long time for an entrepreneur. Of course, with support, you can go quicker. Like I coach entrepreneurs within a period of 2 to 3 months, and then they launch a crowdfunding campaign. Of course, I help them in their communication. I look at all their texts in detail, and we really focus on every single step and how to create these peaks in the crowdfunding campaign. In Belgium, my coaching and the book, the program, they are recognized and they are part of a subsidy project. So a starting entrepreneur who has a new concept, they can take part in the course, and it costs them 75 euros for everything. And the rest I get through subsidies for every participant. For someone who is not a starting entrepreneur and who already has a company for a couple of years and want to use it, and they want to use it for growth, it's still subsidied, but only a smaller part, and they pay 900 euros, just to show the difference. So,
thank you.